Oh, I don't think it's a problem.
No, I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's a problem.
There's no problems.
There's no problems. We don't have any problems.
There's no problems. Oh, look, we're live.
Hey,
Hey, hello.
what's going on?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, we did. We didn't even do the intro.
Nope.
We went like.
We went
That's the
live,
intro.
direct live. We're starting out good with drinks.
And you know what, Dave? Thank you so much for bringing these. This is one of my favorite beers for real. I wasn't even lying.
I just guessed.
I never even heard of this.
Allagash Curio.
It normally comes in the really large bottles, and it costs a fortune, if you know where to get it.
So these are half a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't too. Strangely, this wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be in the 4-pack.
Did you find any service?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you
They never
buy
used to have it.
so
in
I don't care.
They never used to have it in a 4-pack. They only used to have it in the big bottles, and that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that ranges for anywhere from $19 to $24 a bottle.
Really?
And I'm also
That's
super
not
into
expensive.
the
19
delirium,
is the cheap.
the
Yeah.
tremens.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
Triple,
They've
too,
just-
Allagash triple.
exactly. And they've just started coming out in these smaller. Well, they're the clay
And the cans, too.
And the cans, yeah.
Their
Lefin
bar,
is in cans.
If you ever get to Belgium, their bar, have you been there?
No.
It's exceptional. Well, it's not a bar. I mean, it's a
Is-
multi-floor beer extravaganza.
Is
There's,
there
like,
people
different-
laying on the floor dead?
I mean, there can be. It's
They
huge.
all lost.
The floor on this floor and on that floor, and there's like a band on one floor, and something else going on the other floor, something else, and it's full of taps.
Oh, with
And where is
9%
this?
beer.
In Belgium, it's
Oh, in Belgium.
You know,
you see
Oh,
that
well, I was going to
beautiful
say, let's just go there.
Road
for the
trip.
show. But
Yeah.
we still could do that.
Delirium Bar, Delirium Pub.
Are you serious?
Oh,
It's
God, now I have
It's
to
like
go.
the delirium tasting room for the actual brewery.
It's
Is that what it
incredible. Yes, I believe so. I mean,
And the people that get rolled out the back door at the end of the night, delirium tremens, is that one?
Yes,
The one.
They're
That's my
delirious,
favorite
sure.
one,
they're
yeah.
shaking. They're shaking.
Yeah.
It's
In
literally
Belgium.
when you see the pictures of that beautiful square in Belgium, the
Oh, yeah,
center of
yeah.
it's literally a block off of that
Mm.
down like a little side street, and boom, there it is, and it's a really incredible place to visit if you like.
Sounds like a
Oh.
bad idea.
Yeah.
Bad
Now,
idea waiting to
you-
happen.
So
it's good.
Pete, you're not a gluten guy though. Did you make exceptions
They
when
have
you were there?
they have a lot
or-
of gluten-free beer there.
Serious?
Yeah, like good options.
Wow.
Like not one, like there's like 10.
Yeah.
Like it's really cool.
So you were
Yeah.
golden.
Do they have
Yeah.
gluten-free weed?
In Belgium? Not in Belgium.
Oh, it's not the Belgian thing.
Yeah, not Belgium, but
Maybe
Gluten-free
Amsterdam.
heroin.
maybe
Oh,
not-
that's-
definitely
that's-
Amsterdam. Copenhagen.
That's Denmark. Is that Denmark?
What's that? Oh, the hard drugs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Denmark has a weird.
The hard drug.
There's certain parts of that are like no man's land, kind of where you can go there if you're into that sort of thing.
You know,
what
the
I mean?
really
It's like a-
super dark chocolate.
I don't know. I tried to
Nice
avoid that in my
dog.
life, but there is. I know there's zones that are kind of like the police stay away from. It's a different thing in whereas
tar chocolate.
this show's taking an interesting turn.
Come on, Steve. You play rock and roll.
Hey, I got it all from. Well, remember the what was it? The second or third Humble Pie album
Oh,
was called Nut Gone Flake or something like that. It was,
okay.
their album titles were all about the hash and the weed and the heroin.
Okay.
And the,
Yeah.
I wonder if that was Steve Marriott. If it was it his like? Did he? I wonder if it was like. I don't know. If he was like the guy coming. I mean, he was obviously the primary lyricist, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
So it must have been.
You were doing a little Steve tribute last week. You did a little Steve Marriott soliloquy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's like
It's a big word.
He's like one of those.
I got a couple of those.
He's like
They
one
come
of those,
out when I'm drinking. The
one of those
Allagash.
sort of underappreciated, underrated standard bearers.
Yeah.
The guy that I don't remember what song it was I heard recently, but it was a Faces track. I'm listening to XM radio on the car. That's the time I really get to listen to music is in the car.
Hmm.
And that's why I keep satellite radio, because I listen to Underground Garage mostly and deep tracks.
No, cool.
And
Little Steven show.
on the way to work and on the way home, I keep hearing. I have that album, but I don't remember that track.
Mm.
Or they never play that on the radio.
Mm.
They finally did. They never play that on the radio, and they played a Faces track with Marriott singing.
Hmm.
That was the song, the arrangement, and the singing style that Zeppelin appropriated from whole cloth and put it on, I think, the second.
Absolutely.
Oh, so
Led
this was
Zeppelin
the
album.
Led Zeppelin prototype.
Totally the
And
same.
Jeff Beck group.
Mhm.
Even
Definitely.
the scales, the vocal inflections, and stuff like that.
But
he
you're
was
saying this track in particular was like
totally aped.
Yeah.
They where Led Zeppelin obviously totally aped that. There's 4 or 5 examples of Zeppelin where they just appropriated this and it's got their name on it. There was a long time ago. I met Mark Bayer from Victoria Amps,
Mhm.
and he was standing in his booth at the NAMM show with a 10-gallon cowboy hat on and his beard, and he's just sitting there watching these 2 guys kibitz over one of his 410 Bassman replicas, and this one noob guy, one sort of brown-nosed guy, was telling this other greener noob guy about, that was into vintage amps, about how it was a faithful recreation of a blah, 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 blah. And Mark Bayer is just looking at him going, and he's standing there, and this guy's just sort of waxing, that he knows so much about it inside and out. And Mark just goes, it's not my take on a Fender 410 Bassman. It's a fucking 410 Bassman with my name on it. And then walked away.
Ouch.
And these guys went, and
And
there are several Zeppelin tracks that are Faces tracks with Zeppelin's name on it, or Willie Dixon, or
Mhm.
Sure.
I Can't Quit You, Babe. Who's
Mhm.
who's that? The guitar player, the original guitar player that wrote and sang that song.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about because I just
not-
heard that in the last month.
Otis. His last name is Otis.
Really?
it's-
That's not what I'm thinking.
But exactly ripped off the whole rip. The only thing the Page did different was turn the volume up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a blueprint.
Oh, absolutely.
And Jeff Beck group and stuff. It was like, oh, there was and it's interesting because I feel like then Beck went, oh, I'm not going to do that now. Like, that's
Yeah.
how it went
Yeah,
to,
he really
and then
did.
they just
He
went
really
like, oh, I'm going to go this way now.
Yeah.
And
Beck had the presence of mind to say, I'm going to get off this lane. It's a little busy.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
must be something else I can do.
totally. Let's see what
Mhm.
else.
It's
Very
out there.
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's
to me
out
that
there.
He always kind of did that.
I mean, talk about a malcontent.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like he, like literally, I'm going to switch up my entire career because everybody's doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going my way.
Yeah.
You
I'm
know,
gonna play with my fingers now.
Rubber Soul.
I'm gonna-
I don't even need a singer
Yeah.
anymore.
In
Like,
an interview,
peace.
Paul said
Yeah. Right.
that Rubber Soul, its sole reason to exist was to make a record that nobody else could copy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Everybody's copying what we're doing. We're going to just make it impossible for them to copy us.
Kind of did.
That's cool.
Kind of worked.
That's really cool.
But, that's the real throwdown, isn't that? I mean, between the Beatles and Brian Wilson was like the throwdown.
Yeah.
Well,
Pat Stevens
what about, and
Man, I saw McCartney in I think it was 2006 in Anaheim, and Brian Wilson was sitting down from me in the
Whoa.
like 10 seats down from me in the same row, I
Wow.
think. And I watched as they played back in the USSR,
Uh-huh.
and he was watching them play back, and I was like, this is like
Whoa.
another, this is like two worlds colliding, where because that was them taking the piss out,
Right.
the Beach Boys
Uh-huh.
back in the, and I watched him watching them play back in the, or McCartney's band playing it, and it was so cool. It was
because that's
You had to have been kind of going, I don't know if anybody else in the room is catching this either.
it was just
Yeah.
so
Like-
he's like I was just wondering what Brian was thinking.
Yeah,
watching
but
it.
it's
Like,
total
oh, yeah.
validation. It's
Yeah.
just like, because of you, we went here.
Yeah. It was like a friendly, cool rivalry thing. It was awesome. I love it. I love
That's super cool.
Supposedly the little sort of fun back and forth between Leonard Skinner and Neil Young
Yeah.
was good natured and
Yeah, it
fun. And
was.
we're all just
It was.
brothers and
it.
stuff.
Mm.
I don't know about that.
Well, actually, I think they kind of shook hands on it afterward.
After the
I
fact,
think the two songs were kind of like
they were that at
You know,
first,
yeah.
and then after the fact, they
like respect.
They
Okay, yeah.
met backstage and went, you know what? That actually was a good
That's
thing for
okay.
my
Here,
career.
smoke this.
Wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't Ed King and Neil Young or something on the cover of like Rolling Stone together with their arms around something like that?
Yeah.
They were like all
Mhm.
friends. It was like cool, but
Even though it was what 20, 30 years after the fact.
I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know if it
Time
was-
heals.
It might have been during.
Time heals.
Yeah, time heals. Yeah, but that time doesn't heal for everyone. I just remembered something that
I was going to say,
Ooh.
what
That,
are you
um,
holding in here? Dave?
no, not me, but
this is gonna be
actually maybe I shouldn't even say.
who's this gonna be about?
Confessions.
Well, some of the '80s stuff, those bands that you've talked.
Well,
you've
the-
talked about the Jake and.
Well, yes,
Robert.
yes, that was interesting.
That's the-
And the funny thing about that whole thing on the show where I did with Jakey Lee, and when he brought up the whole,
when you drink more alcohol.
I was
than-
replacing. Yeah, well, that's a different story. But
when he quit drinking. for a
Comment.
while.
Spill the beans, Dave.
well, okay, I went somewhere else all of a sudden, so let me finish this somewhere else.
Sorry.
So on that show, he
Amanda
like,
says
he like
no
talks
one likes
about
to tease Dave.
on that show he talked about Motley Crue asking him to replace McMars,
Oh,
and that was said a long time ago in Crying Magazine. The whole story,
and this
like
is
in
before-
1981, it was said, full print, more detail than we ever had. We had this detail, and it went to press, and Nikki Sixx like, that's bullshit. That never happened. And the funny thing is, Mick Mars even tells the story now recently, the same story.
Mm.
I'm like,
You know, Nixie
What's
Sixx
real?
Nixie Sixx is he's sort of got a thing of
saying no, I
Denying.
won't do that
of
thing that I
denying
did.
things that actually went down.
yeah.
So he's kind of like
But the other thing I was
Penny
going
tucked
at
into
where
a corner.
time doesn't always heal is talking to John Sykes once. And John goes, he told me the whole story about the breakup of Whitesnake and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And still to this day, he goes, if I ever saw him in a room, I would punch him.
Really? See, you know. I really like hearing that because I've heard other things.
Yeah. I think originally he wanted Pete's number
Mm-hmm.
to compliment him on a video that he did.
Oh,
He
wow.
called me.
Yeah,
I
and he
was-
called him. I gave him his number.
I was
Who
having
was
breakfast
that?
and my phone rang and it came up because people's callers and it's
Yeah.
like John Sykes called me. I was like, wow, but I'd already met him once or
Okay.
twice in Dave's shop, and he's like, hey man, I just saw the video. It was for the SLO plugin,
Mhm.
the Neural SLO
Yeah.
plugin. He said, man, I watched this video that you did and I love the track and everything, and it was so cool. I just want to phone and tell you. I was like, you're one of my like
My
I always
day's a little better now.
Well, I always say that he's like I still go and watch that great Thunder and Lightning Thin Lizzy show with where it's just so burning. Like there's a video of it up on full of this whole concert.
Yeah.
That and Whitesnake at I think it's at Donington or something, or no, maybe it's Rock in Rio in it's Rock 84 when they were playing like Crying in the Rain and stuff
Yeah.
before it ever
Oh yeah,
earlier,
yeah.
and he plays this ripping solo that's
Mhm.
just like, and I'm always just like, referencing that. I mean, I'm going way. My sister was super into like Tigers of Pantang and stuff,
Oh,
like when
really?
I was a little kid.
Oh.
So like I was way exposed to
No
John
kidding.
Sykes. Yeah, my sister was
Your
a total
sister was
metalhead.
weird.
Yeah, she's metalhead.
All due respect,
Right.
but
She was a huge Thin Lizzy fan, huge John Sykes fan, huge Phil fan, and into Tigers of Pantang and stuff like that too. So I was
That's
way
bananas.
exposed to.
Speaking of Lizzie, I heard a version of Boys Are Back in Town that I almost turned off when it came on the radio, and then I stopped because it was a different mix or it was a different take, or I don't think it wasn't live. But boy, did it kick ass!
Yeah.
And it was a
It's like a different take or
the
something.
same arrangement from beginning to end, but I don't know if it was the take. I think it was the mix.
Remix?
Interesting. Maybe.
Or some,
Remix.
no,
Was
but
the
no,
John
but some of
Peel
the phrasing,
show or something.
some of
still
the
going on at
phrasing
that
was a
point?
little
'Cause
bit
it had
different.
been that kind of setup,
huh?
Satellite
like the
radio
John
does that a
Peel
lot.
show.
I
Or it
don't
could've
remember
been-
what show it was
or-
on. I didn't really pay attention to any particular show. I think it was on Deep Track, but
Cool.
I was just thinking, really, Boys Are Back in Town to the Deep Track. I do this all the time. I'm driving. I'm going, really? That's a Deep Track? No, I don't fucking think that's a Deep Track.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
And and I get really annoyed, and then they play something that's way out there. And I'm like, oh
All
my
right,
god,
all right.
that was like my
Yeah.
favorite track on this bizarre album, and it was the most out track on that record.
Huh.
And you never hear it on the radio. And I stopped in my tracks. I almost had to pull over and went, oh my god, I remember playing that in a band, and I had to do that arrangement. But this was different. This was like, this was basically the same overall arrangement, but it had much more edge. And Phil was doing more of this Hendrix sort of, inside joke, sort of fourth wall kind of vibe.
Right.
And it was great.
I love his. I mean, dude, that guy. There's a killer documentary about him that came out a couple of years ago. That anybody out there that loves Thin Lizzy, if you haven't seen it, it's on it's either on Paramount or it's on Prime. Just search for Phil Lynott documentary, you'll find it.
I haven't seen it.
It came out like 2 years ago, and it is. I had a whole new appreciation for the lyrics and the storytelling, and also his upbringing and how tough he had it. Being a mixed race kid growing up, in Ireland in the early 50s that he was born, it was gnarly. And he came up and just ruled. He became like one of the biggest rock stars from Ireland. He's like he's like a hero and it's so cool. And the stuff that he had to go through. And there was such a unique band too. Like there were like the kind of like the Irish folk element mixed with and later on they got so heavy.
Right.
And in the middle there was ballads and all kinds.
Right.
Of
Well, where some of that early sort of that folk ballad stuff came from?
Where?
Skid Row.
Oh.
Not the 90s Skid Row.
No, the Gary Moore.
The Gary Moore Skid Row.
Yeah.
Where he's this little urchin with this weird little hat on, this weird little knit thing over his head, and his hair sticking out the side
You were
with the
sending
beard.
me videos at one point.
And I sent Joe some videos of this where
it's so gnarly and raw, but like in all
he's
the right
playing
ways.
in all of the right ways. Gary Moore is playing this
You
twisted
showed
shit.
that to me
The
too.
arrangements are twisted
Yeah.
to beat shit, and they're playing it like they know it. They could do it in a coma.
Amazing.
They've rehearsed this and rehearsed this and rehearsed this. Everything's out of tune. All the instruments sound like shit.
The mix
They
is
all look like
terrible.
shit, and they're blowing my mind.
That's cool.
And the guy, the
Grooming
bass
was not on
player
the map,
in
Yeah.
Skid Row was this guy named Russ Shields,
Mm.
who's still around.
Weren't you
Okay.
talking to him? or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
established some communication with him
Wow.
because I saw that, and we went out and ordered the first Skid Row album. The drummer was fucking amazing, by the way. He passed away a couple years
See, I've
ago.
never listened to them, so I should go. And listen.
Amazing drummer, double kit,
Oh.
and he just had this dexterity. But when you looked at his face while he's playing, he looked like he could have walked away from the drums and it still would have been playing because it was so effortless for him playing all these crazy arrangements and keeping the time. And they were doing this 5/6 time signature stuff, but it was nuts. It was nuts, and he just had this sort of blissful expression on his face, and he's doing this crazy stuff. And I'm going, these guys are out of their fucking minds.
How old are they?
They're like in their 20s.
Isn't that amazing?
No, I think Gary was like 17 or something.
Hey,
Yeah,
he was
super
17
young.
in the
He
band.
a
The drummer
little
was
baby.
20,
Yeah.
and Brush was a little older. He had this sort of gruff voice, and he actually considered himself a guitar player, but he was playing bass.
'Cause-
He
'cause
supposedly
Gary Moore-
convinced. He supposedly convinced.
Yeah, right.
Um,
What am I gonna do? Give me a four string.
It's like Noel Redding. I play guitar.
No, I don't.
Not anymore.
he supposedly convinced Thin Lizzy bassist, the singer.
Oh, Phil.
I
yeah,
blanked out.
Yeah.
He supposedly Phil was in the band for a minute,
Was he
in that band,
Oh, okay.
and then he quit to go do his own thing with Gary.
Right.
And when he quit, Brush gave him a bass and taught him how to play it.
Mhm.
Because he wanted to be a singer, but they couldn't find a bass player.
Oh.
So he taught Phil how to play bass so he could go start his new band with the guitar player that he ripped off from Rush's band.
Okay.
But it was really crazy. So we ordered this record. We bought it from some guy selling it on eBay. We got it here. And the whole first half of the record was this like twisted, edgy, bad sounding guitar distorted, bass distorted, out of tune. Really, the drums were amazing, but the guitar and bass sounds were fucking horrible. But the music was so compelling that you couldn't stop listening to it.
It doesn't matter.
And watching them playing, there was some video clips of them on that German TV show.
Okay.
Rock Palace or whatever.
Rockplast or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And they're fucking killing it, right?
Mhm.
The other side of the record is all of this traditional Irish folk-based stuff.
So
It's
Same
like,
guys?
we listened to the whole record waiting for somebody to just like go, what are they? And it never happened. The whole side of the record is all this weird country-oriented.
Yeah.
It's almost country western. And we're like,
Yeah.
huh? And then we listened to the other side and we'll listen back, and we did it back and forth a few times and thought, you know what? It really is interesting that they spent this much time and effort into making this record that had this breadth of
Mhm.
creative output, and also just to the audience,
Yeah.
we draw you in with a rock and roll, and then you flip the record, and now you have to go, what the fuck are these guys doing?
Yeah, that's cool, man.
But it was great, and so
Yeah.
so I got his email address from his Facebook site, and I sent him a picture of the record. I just got this off from eBay. It just arrived.
Mm.
It's fucking brilliant.
Mm.
Thank you.
Side one is anyway.
No, I love the.
No, I
love
didn't
the-
say that. I just said fucking brilliant.
You know,
And he sent me back a heart.
oh, okay.
So
That's so
there you go.
When you think about like Beatles and you know, it was all chemistry and coming out, even Sabbath and like, I mean, they were listening to different kinds of music. I mean, rock and roll was just being born. So it's like with the Beatles, you got Paul and
What is this supposed to
vaudeville.
be? We don't know what
you know?
it's supposed to be yet.
Yeah, but you could do anything. It was like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Can I? have it? Like, well, that's not rock and roll. You know, that's like Paul listening to records with his dad or something
right.
from the fourth. You know, and then George and
Jug band music.
and do, you know, super Eastern
Mhm.
vibes, and he's going to India and stuff, and there was just like anything goes, and it was so cool because
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
you know, and I actually feel a little bit like kids these days are like a little more like that. Like there's these bending of genres and stuff.
You
and they're
have to.
throwing 100 things at the wall. It's a
Hey,
little less stale right
Yeah,
now.
they have to.
In the
Yeah.
80s, I would play shows with all these different bands, or I'd go see shows with. There was an open air downtown LA street concert. U2 plays. Just before U2 plays, and I don't remember the name of the band, but this punk ska Oompa Oompa band
Uh-huh.
that played before U2, and U2 wasn't really that well known yet.
Right.
So they were really green. But this other band plays before them, and they've got this girl with chains around her neck, a black leather miniskirt, high boots, stuff sticking out of her face, and then a tuba player who's like 80, who's 80.
Oh wow,
He's
Yeah.
80.
that's awesome.
And then a couple other guys, and they're just one band has this like 30-year genre mix going on.
That's cool.
And they're doing ska music, and you're like going, what the fuck is this? That's the way shows were at once upon a time. I saw Hoochie Coochie Man. I always blank. I blank when we're
Muddy Waters?
Muddy Waters with Spirit opening for them.
Whoa.
Really?
And it was the most, you see, I mean, that was the kind
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, really. And that's why 45 years later, it's still ingrained in my memory that
Yeah.
Wait, was Spirit
both
Randy
of those-
California?
yeah. And both of those performances were mind-bendingly awesome. And they had really intense, memorable moments like Randy California going on to this
What
extended.
was it like watching Muddy Waters just walk on stage?
I'll get to that. Randy California does it. They do this break just before the break, just for this breakdown where Randy's playing by himself. The bass player, as he's walking off stage, grabs this grocery bag and just starts throwing reefers out into the audience, which in 1968
That's a
was
different
really
time.
subversive.
Mm.
And everybody in the audience is like, ah. So that he walks, and then Randy California goes off into this extended exploration of an echoplex
Cool.
where he's playing riffs and doing this. Yeah.
Did it break halfway
And
through?
it sounds so cornball now, but at that time, nobody had done that.
Right.
I saw Brian May do that like 3 years later, but by then, are we
Right.
dead? Are we dead in the water? Oh, okay, we'll get to that.
No, but Patrick wants to pay you $5. to
Yeah,
answer your
well, hey,
question.
we don't want you stinking $5, and we'll answer your question. Just post it.
Well, so, but
It
He
already
means that
happened.
with love. It already happened.
We all appreciate that, and so seeing Randy California do that was the first time I experienced that. Now we were like,
And the last.
so you could do that, and then I had a reel-to-reel tape machine. I was really young, and I was building a home stereo system, and I had a reel-to-reel tape machine, and I figured out how to turn it into an echo for a guitar.
Nice.
And I played around with that stuff. I figured out how to do what he was doing, and after 15 minutes, I was fucking sick of it, and I didn't need to do it anymore. But
That's kind of how life
it's
works.
still. Then they go off. Muddy Waters walks on the stage with his fucking beautiful seersucker suit and a Telecaster.
The red telly.
You couldn't tell because the spotlight was right on his guitar, and it had the bridge pickup, which was really shiny. And all I remember is the spotlight flashing off of that pickup, and it was just blindingly
Wait,
bright.
did you have the ashtray cover thing on the?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it was just like and all I remember, he walks on stage, this light off of his guitar was blinding. It was and he goes, and then goes with the slide on the telly, and that was it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all
that's
you needed
awesome.
to know. After that,
Yeah.
it was just a fucking ride. I couldn't tell you what song he played next after that.
Like,
All I remember it was just a full-blown adrenaline rush from very beginning to the very end. And that's when I understood what Muddy Waters was about. It wasn't about blues. It wasn't about slide guitar. It was about, he had this monstrous presence where he could just be like right in front of your face from 50 feet away. And I felt like he was singing to me. It was
That's
just
awesome.
the most amazing
I think I
thing.
mentioned it on the
Cool.
show before, but at the Delta Blues Museum in Clarksdale, they took down the cabin that he grew up in on one of the sharecropping farms, and they reassembled it inside the museum. So you can sit in Muddy Waters' cabin and watch videos of him playing live. And it's actually really moving because you're thinking about what this guy came from. And you think like, this is like, there's a tribute like this where people, invested the money to reassemble your damn house inside of a museum.
Right.
In
Yeah.
tribute to you. And it was like, that's something else.
And we talked the last show about my ancestors coming over from Italy,
Oh yeah.
homesteading in Eastern Washington. They built a little 10 by 20 cabin out of logs that 5 people lived in, the parents and 3 kids, and etched out a life for themselves.
Yeah.
And then they tore this thing down. My uncle tore it down about 20 years ago and rebuilt it on his property, and it still stands. And there's this thing about that they preserved the Muddy Waters. There's this thing about that it just seems on the surface of it, it just seems a little like, why would you do that? But once you experience it, there's this thing about it.
It was incredible to me.
It's incredible that you've preserved something that you only get to experience looking at pictures or reading in books. To be able to walk in
That's
and
cool.
touch that.
And when they pulled that down, they took a little bit of that wood, and Billy Gibbons has one of these guitars.
I was going
made
to
out
say
of
somebody
some-
did make a
Oh,
fucking
It's
guitar
called
out
the
of it, didn't
Muddy
they?
Cast.
The Muddy Cast.
The Muddy Cast. Yeah.
Billy can do no.
Yeah, yeah.
no,
well,
no,
he's the
no,
guy
no,
that
no,
can
no.
get away
Anybody's
with
gonna
it.
do
He's
it.
the guy who could do it.
Yeah.
He's the coolest motherfucker ever. Period.
He's
Exactly.
pretty much the
Yeah.
coolest. Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean,
Patrick. You
when you
totally
meet him,
picked the wrong fucking
you know.
amp. No, VHD had nothing to do with that amplifier or that company, and I don't have anything to say about it. Sorry.
Did you guys read the Keith Richards book?
No.
He talks about
I watched the documentary though, the thing that he did a
That's
while
cool.
back.
the book is
That's funny.
his book is incredible, and the stories are unbelievable. But one of them is going to, I think it's Muscle Shoals or something, and he goes
Mhm.
there, and he's like, for the first time, he's in this place, and he's like blown away, and then there's a guy painting on a ladder. He's
Oh.
painting, and he looks down, it's fucking Muddy Waters, and he's like, what? He's like, he's in this place. It's and there he is.
I've
He's
heard
just like,
that
he's just
anecdote
like up there.
before.
Yeah, he's like,
Painting.
Like,
that's
what
the
are
first
you
time.
I don't know
doing here?
a thing
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. It has nothing to do with us or our company. Okay, it's a different company's product. It's made in China. Whatever you think about it, great. Enjoy it as much as you can. Nothing to do with me. I can't tell you a thing about it.
Me neither.
Do you
I don't know
know?
anything
I don't know either.
Just with the Muddy Water story, it reminds me of that Ulysses S. Grant story, where he graduated from West Point, so he should have been. Well, he wound up being something, president and all. But at one point, he was basically destitute, and he was selling firewood by the side of the road in his hometown. And one of his fellow, I'm probably butchering the story, but one of his fellow West Point graduates comes through the town and sees what he's doing. Like, Ulysses S. Grant, what the hell are you doing selling firewood on the side of the road? And he says, I'm solving the problem of poverty.
There you go.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the
sense of
Rolling
humor.
Stones,
Yeah.
the Rolling Stones come to America, and they go to a recording studio in the South to record a record where Muddy Waters recorded a record.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they go in there, and there's a guy painting the ceiling,
Yeah.
That's what he was just saying.
That is Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
was mine.
Yeah.
and they go like,
I told that story 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
"Ah,
you
I'm
weren't
sorry."
listening.
See, that's how
That's when you
I'm trying to-
When I
I'm
watch this show,
trying to-
I see that happen.
I'm trying to stay connected to everything, and I
It's
can't
okay.
always. Do
I
it.
understand. It's impossible to multitask. I can't do it either.
But the whole idea of the
Yeah.
Rolling Stones walking in and looking up at their idol and going,
He's
"Is
painting-
there, who's in charge of this place?" And Muddy Water looks down at
Yeah.
them. Can you imagine?
It's in Keith's book. His
Yeah.
book is exceptional. He tells all the stories. He also tells a story about falling out of the tree. You remember when he did that? When he was like in a hammock or something, he fell
I
down
don't
and
know
hit his
about
head,
this
and
one.
he's in like Fiji or something or wherever
Yeah, I
he
remember
was
that
on
story.
vacation, and he had to get airlifted somewhere, and all of a sudden he's on some doctor's table, and this guy's like, "Holy shit, this is Keith Richards!" And he's got to like do some sort of surgery on him.
Either that, or he's like, "Let's get rid of that. I don't have to do fuck all. He'll just like."
Yeah,
He'll live
yeah,
no matter what.
yeah. He tells another great story about going to Australia at some time in the 70s and shacking up with some girl that he met at a gig
No way.
for like a week, and he stays at her place, and it was the last show of the tour, I think, and so he meets her, and they end up like digging one another, and he stays there for a week. She's got a young kid. She's got like a 1-year-old or something. She's got to go to work, so he just stays there at the house for like a week. And he goes, "There's some kid or there's some guy right now in Australia that's probably like whatever he was at the time when he wrote the book. He's like 40 now.
Right.
This guy, he has no idea that Keith Richards wiped his ass for like a week. Like when he was a kid, he's just an older guy now. He has no clue. He goes, "I totally took care of this chick's kid for it was amazing."
I always love that story on the Rolling Stones when what was it the singer that sang on Mary Shelton or Mary
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Gimme Shelter.
and-
and
Yeah.
Give Me Shelter, yeah, and she tells that story on YouTube. There's a great interview
yeah?
with her. Have you seen that? Yeah, I just love that story. It's like I'm woken up in the middle of the night. I
Well,
mean,
the sad thing
curlers.
is
Oh,
pregnant.
and I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the sad
And
thing
they
is
call-
she miscarried
And they
after
and
that session.
they
Really?
wow, that's
Yeah.
sad. But
Oh, I didn't know that.
and you know, she goes in her fur coat or something, and she goes to
Girly,
backup
yeah.
singer to the studio, and you know, you want me to sing what?
Yeah.
Rape?
Rape,
Murder?
murder, yeah.
Right. Yeah. What? It's a nice church-going woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then you hear in that interview, you also hear the isolated track,
Oh, cool.
and that'll just your
It
hair
does,
will come up on your
because her
arms.
voice is breaking.
Because at one point in time, they said, "Okay, great, you got the cut," and she goes, "No, I think I can do it better." And she does it better, and that's the cut that was used, and her voice cracks even in the middle of it. But that has so much character to it, and
Yeah.
that's just so much part
but you
of
can
it.
also hear
And
the
she's
guys
screaming
in the
her
booth.
lungs out.
You can hear the guys in the booth going ape shit when she's doing it. Like,
Mhm.
like that's the greatest thing I ever heard in my
Yeah.
life.
Oh,
You know what's
Yeah.
one of the coolest things on a video that's available is watching the Rolling Stones on Dick Clark, where they basically said Howlin' Wolf is going to be on the show with us, whether you like it or not, basically. And Howlin' Wolf is on American Bandstand because of the Stones, and they're all sitting there, and Brian Jones is just looking up at him while he's singing, going, just totally grouping out on.
That's
I
cool.
love that.
And it's amazing. And then once you get unhooked from Brian Jones being completely enthralled by that, you look at him and you're like going, watching him perform and thinking, he's scaring the shit out of 70% of America right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the guy we've been hiding.
And that's where Brian Jones's smile is really coming from. We're sticking it to him. Because when they came here on their first tour, they were saying everybody was so square and stick up their ass. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then the next time we came to America, it had all changed. And they really were like coming to grips with the idea that we kind of helped.
But you guys have seen
Turn that
the
screw.
Hendrix on the Lulu show thing, right?
Oh, I love that.
We're gonna do a duet on Hey Joe.
Yeah,
and he plays this psychedelic intro that's like it's
well,
full
he
of
starts
feedback.
out.
Oh yeah,
he starts out.
He's going to the
Okay, I'm
moon.
on board with you. And then after about 3 minutes of that, he's going, okay. He's thinking, I'm going to throw up if I have to keep doing this.
Right.
And then
yeah,
he just like
stops
goes
the
off.
tune and goes,
Oh yeah,
"Yeah, we're not gonna play this bullshit." And he counts off "Sunshine of Your Love" really fast.
Yeah.
And then they just play it as an instrumental, and Jimmy's like, "Oh shit,
But he
yeah,
was just
everybody's
doing
going
this."
like this." And he's saying to the mic, they're about to throw us off the air, and like they were banned from the BBC after that.
That's
'cause
rock
they
and
didn't
roll,
follow
man.
And Hendrix
rules.
going, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's
Perfect.
rock and roll. You got to read Keith's book because like he has a lot in it about that. It starts off with that, like basically
really?
being in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I think in the book is about them getting pulled over and like they got a trunk full of drugs in the car. He's like, "How are we gonna get out of there, Texas or something?" And it's like,
This
How
is
we
the
gonna get out of
beginning
this?
the book.
this is right how the book starts, but there's a lot of stuff about about being in the South and stuff, and they're like they knew right away it's like where they wanted to hang out was in the black clubs and stuff.
The
They
black
wanted to
clubs,
do
yeah, they
way
went and they
more
went
fun, way more like this is our scene, not this uptight
Absolutely.
and how they in a roundabout way they just introduced American music back to Americans, and it's unfortunate it had to be that way, but that's what happened, and it was a good thing that they did.
And I remember
It's
Keith
like,
saying, not in the book, but in interviews where he was saying, "Yeah, we came to America and we expected our heroes to be big, and when we got there,
Right.
we
Be
realized
special
Americans
people.
didn't even know
they
who
didn't
these people
understand
were.
or know
Like,
or
what
want
the
to
hell is
know.
wrong
these-
with you people?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
These guys are like janitors and
Yeah.
bus
Yeah.
drivers. And,
Exactly.
Like, we're looking up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have us on the top of the bill. Like,
Yeah,
there's
what's wrong with
something
you
wrong
people?
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence,
This is why
we're gonna bring Howlin' Wolf on the show with us, or we're not playing. That whole kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is why that it was such a crazy time, like the dawn of rock and roll, and how that intersects with England, and how that intersects with the civil rights movement, and how it intersects with everything from the 60s and the 70s.
Right.
Well, I love the whole thing about
So
I
cool.
love the whole thing about Ray Charles thinking that he's going to go play this performance in Georgia, and then at the last minute he gets talked out of it, and he starts finally realizing, oh yeah, okay, and then he turns around and walks back to his bus, and they blow off Georgia
Hmm.
during this time. He was like, hey, I'm a performer. I don't have any responsibility to all this stuff. I have a contract and this is the performance that I have to play and blah, blah, blah. And just as he's walking into the venue, it's kind of probably glorified in the movie, but the reality is something made him instantly reassess what he was doing. And he turned around and got on the bus and said, we're not doing the show. Fuck off. And he was banned for life from Georgia because of that decision, because he didn't want to, because they decided, no, okay. I think Quincy Jones was sort of telling him, hey, man, that's like a dead end. You gotta get your mind right on this shit. And he was like, I don't know. I'm a piano player. What do I know about that stuff? But somehow he got religion on that and then did an about face, got banned for life from performing in Georgia.
Wow.
And then ended up getting a pardon, an apology, a document, and Georgia being made the state song.
Right, just the biggest.
Wow.
Yeah, standards.
It took 30 years for it to materialize, but it eventually did, and in his lifetime.
That's cool.
So you see that, and then he was only able to accomplish that because he gained enough power through his contribution to music that
Certainly,
gave him the momentum and the ability to do that. Where a lot of those guys, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Water, they were in the genre and they got up to a certain level, and that's where they peaked out, and they never got to the point where they really had the momentum to just finally say, okay, the system is going to change because now I have the power to say the system is fucked up.
Right.
And so that's what's really sort of important about Ray Charles is through all the adversity and all the craziness that he went through in his life, he did recognize, okay, here's an inflection point in my life that I can pull this rope and maybe this will happen. And it did. It was pretty fantastic.
That's the reason. That's the only reason to have access to that rope.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
absolutely.
it's just living in God mode, and like that's the I don't know how that's healthy for you unless you're like, yeah, I can move the needle a little bit with this.
Right.
Well,
I guess, and it's being tuned in enough to realize.
And probably at a particular point in your career too.
Fixed?
Amanda says it's fixed.
I think it's resolving itself on its
Thank
own,
you,
like you were
Amanda.
saying earlier.
Steve
needs a new computer.
Just a note on the audio for you folks out there who aren't regulars.
Hey, hold on, there might be no audio now.
It's back.
That's fixed.
We have a bug in somewhere in our system that causes the audio to glitch out every once in a while.
Oh, is it Windows? It's
Windows.
You said yourself that you had some weird problem that kept, and you got back. So
yeah, but I had it with my UA. It wasn't actually the computer.
Well, I had UA originally, and it was screwing up all the time. So this
That's because it's Windows.
Yeah, that's because it was Windows, and UA doesn't like Windows. Well, RME does like Windows, and that's my drive. That's my interface. But somehow Windows has done an upgrade that is causing a conflict in the USB communication with the interface. So every once in a while, it just wigs out, and I have to turn the interface off and on, and then we're back. So apologies for that.
And it's not like you didn't work on that, because
I
you
spent
really
the entire week. I wiped my hard drive, reinstalled everything, and so there's a USB error.
Matt, because it works.
And if any of you guys out there that are bitching about it are experts and have a solution, bring it. Otherwise,
Dave's sitting right next to you with the golden words.
Matt, because it works.
Yeah.
We're talking about everything but guitars and amps on this show, which is great. But I'm just looking over there just to continue on that theme. And there's a really cool Champagne Sparkle Ludwig kit over there. Are those your drums? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're
Yeah.
old too.
I love that. I used to have Blue Sparkle. They weren't mine, but they were like a roommates of mine that I lived with for a number of years in the living room. Had a similar kit.
Sweet.
Pretty cool.
Well, while you guys are yakking, I'm going to dig up something for you, Pete, that that speaks to that.
Okay.
Here it is.
It's gonna be a picture.
What's this going to be?
All
What's
right.
this going to be?
Who wants to do the drum roll? I'll bring over the snare.
Yeah.
No, you can just keep.
I actually
yakking.
did a drum roll
it'll
on a
take me
video I
minute
made
to get
today.
to it.
Well, eventually you're gonna have to do just live jam sessions in this room.
Yeah, I mean, there's amps and stuff.
There's amps, there's
a bunch of-
guitars, there's bass,
Right behind your
there's
head.
a drum kit. You know, you could do it.
What are the speakers in that cabinet there? They got like crazy dust covers.
Those are Fanes.
Oh, are they?
Those are early to mid 70s Fanes with the where they're trying to make the speakers more hi-fi than
right.
they already were, which was too much
Rack mount
already.
Pitbull.
Rack mount Pitbull. Is that one of a kind?
That was for
That's for Nelson.
Nelson,
Oh, I remember those guys.
and he made it custom out of a
Brett
50
Garsted
watt,
was
right,
in
chassis
that
or something.
Brett Garsted was in that band. I remember Brett Garsted telling me a story about, or maybe it was TJ Helmrich played with him too.
Did?
Yeah, I think so.
Whoa.
It was either Brett or TJ. I remember
I
being
know
at
Brett
MI and him telling me about going over to their house.
Mhm.
And he goes, those guys have just got checks like pinned to the refrigerator with like a magnet for like $1 million. They're just like, oh, we got to take that to the bank later. I just remember it's like royalty checks coming in. He'd walk by the fridge, it'd be $1 million too, you know, like
Ricky Nelson.
yeah. Nelson
Wow.
money. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Oh, yeah. We could put that in the fridge. With
That's
magnet.
crazy.
Yeah, $1 million checks.
Didn't
I
they
was
give that
remember
back
that
to you? That amp, the rack mount?
Yeah.
They gave it back to him after like all
Yeah.
these years.
Gunnar
Well,
called me and he said,
it's a
$1 million
story.
checks.
$1 million check. Yeah,
Yeah.
$1 million check. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember that when he had I think I helped with a rig or something a long time ago, and I think Bradshaw had built it originally,
Hmm.
but there was some problem. Somehow I got involved with helping fix it.
Okay.
and there was that amp. I remember that. I remember playing that amp. I was like, that sounds good.
It's
cool.
5 rack spaces, I think, isn't it? It's kind of an odd.
it's 4.
Is it 4? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Nice.
And it's built off of
50
is it a
watt.
mid 70s, 50
Yeah.
watt.
50 watt Marshall chassis.
Yeah.
50 watt JMP.
Oh.
Cool. Mid 70s 50
And it's-
watt JMP.
Beautiful and nice and neat inside, right?
Hey, I'm happy to take it down and show you how beautiful and not nice and neat it is. And
It is particularly
it is
shit showish.
it is wire sculpture extraordinaire. Let me tell you.
It's pretty, mate. It's
And,
pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And what's
cool.
amazing about it
That it
is
works?
is that it made a 2-year tour without a single fuck up except one groove tube EL34 power tube died. And so it's got
That's
the
not your
original
fault.
tubes in it that it had at the time.
We should talk about that. Yeah,
Tubes?
original. Well, yeah, just like the original tubes thing. People like, because that's what I was going to say. Is that since we got you guys here, it's like everybody likes saying like, should I replace my tubes? You know,
I have these days. I definitely
these guys and let them.
these
Yeah,
days
well,
I definitely have something to say about that.
Yeah.
I would think if you're not having a problem,
yeah,
and it's been working for a long time,
Hmm.
you're not really having any issues, and it's been solid as a rock. Don't change the tubes.
Right.
Because
You can-
nowadays, if you put a new set of tubes in, there's maybe a good chance that they might fail after a
Yeah.
little while.
Sure.
On my Facebook page is a picture of that kit all put together.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in high school, I was in the jazz band in high school, and the school drum kit was a Champagne Sparkle Gretsch kit.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And I have a picture of me in my high school annual
Hmm.
with my Peter Fonda glasses
Peter Von glasses. Cool.
playing the high school kit.
Is that a Gretsch or is that a Ludwig?
That's a Ludwig kit.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And I had a Ludwig Blue Oyster Pearl, a Ringo kit.
Okay. Yeah.
I bought a Ringo kit because if you're going to be a drummer,
You don't have to
Yeah.
say why, Steve.
you don't have to say why. I bought a Ringo kit.
Yeah.
I still the snare drum There's
Oh,
the
that's
snare,
funny.
the chrome snare on the right.
Yeah, that's original.
I got that on my 13th birthday.
That's so cool.
So that would have been when the Beatles first started really coming out, and I had the Blue Oyster Pearl Ringo kit,
It's a nice.
and
kit.
I sold it.
Wait, I'm gonna lose it.
and
Wait, I gotta make a comment.
I sold a bunch
So,
of other
Anyone
stuff.
else think Pete kind of sounds like the villain from The Matrix?
and
And I can't read the name.
Mr.
Basil
Anderson.
something?
Oh yeah,
Mr. Anderson.
Oh,
Right?
Actually, you did that pretty good.
Actually, you sound like that guy on YouTube.
yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
guy.
Hey,
Who
what's
does,
up?
like,
It's
guitar
Pete Thorn.
stuff. Hell yeah, that's
Yeah.
my guy.
I want to get.
Hey,
into, like,
Jason
a
Tom.
You never
voiceover
did.
What's
school.
up?
Gotta do it.
Hey, did anybody hear that? Anybody see the video of Dave Grohl aping Christopher Walken?
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Where he's talking about,
Foo Fighters?
Is it
Introducing them on Saturday Night Live.
introducing them on
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live. And he's
He
like,
totally
put
nailed
the
it.
emphasis on Foo or put the emphasis on fighters. And he's like, put it on fighters. You know, he's like, ladies and gentlemen, next up, Foo Fighters.
Oh.
I can't do it.
And it wasn't
I can't
just
do
that;
it.
it was the fact that Grohl nailed
Yeah,
Mhm.
he nails
Walken
it. I can't
so
do it.
perfectly.
Foo Fighters. You can find, look up Christopher Walken Foo Fighters and you'll find it. It's so funny.
I was
Like,
peeing. I was
yeah,
literally
it's so
peeing.
funny.
reading that.
And the fact that he's got the wherewithal to is it you know.
And of course, he didn't want to tell the story. And the guy that was interviewing said, "All right, so since you got that far, now you have to go back and do an impression of him having the conversation with you backstage at NSL." And he's like, "No, I don't want to do that." And then he does it perfectly, of course.
Yeah, he does it perfect. Yeah. He's
Okay,
he's a smart
now-
guy.
Are we back to tubes?
Oh, anyway,
Yes,
let me just
dude.
finish about
All
the
right.
drum kit.
And then
So a couple
This is where it
of
spirals.
so in the 80s, I was in a band and I had a drummer, and the drummer was doing some other gig that was paying money, and he left the band to do that gig. And 2 months after he left the band to do a paying gig, he called me desperately trying to sell his kit for $200 so he could pay his rent. So I bought that kit. That was
A
about
musician,
1980. I
Wow.
bought that kit.
You've had it since then.
The kick, tom, floor tom, and some hardware for $200.
That's so cool. It's late 60s, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
We're
like because
talking
I
about
had this
it's
kit.
beautiful.
man.
it's
I mean,
mid 60s.
I remember having a kit like this.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same, but blue
Right.
sparkle. Like I
And
remember
it
the
was
badges.
amazing
and
sounding
the-
kit,
Yeah.
and I bought it because it looked like my the high school kit.
Yeah.
It didn't look like the lead.
And it was $200.
Wow.
And it was $200.
Yeah, you can't.
And it is the most amazing sounding kit on the planet.
It's super cool.
Yeah, I bet. That
Yeah.
sounds good.
It was once I got that really set up, and John Hyde from Detective, he rebuilt the whole thing and tuned it
Mm.
because he was buddies with John Bonham, and they worked together, and they were the Detective's first album was partly produced by Jimmy Page and Zeppelin's engineer and stuff like that. So he played Bonham's kit a couple.
So what are
of
you
times.
saying? You sound like John Bonham.
No, I'm
Is
saying
what you're
that John
Steve?
Hyde has enough background about what Bonham's studio kit, which was a littler kit like that, tuned it all up. And the first time I played it after he got done with it, and it's exactly what I did, and it's exactly how it sounded, and that's how it sounds to this day. It's a monster sounding drum kit that looks like a little cocktail rig. It blows my mind.
All the drums you ever
Headley
need.
Grange.
You need another.
I know.
Well, we need another
Or
something. I don't know
tequila.
if it's
It's
that.
something.
Yeah.
I think
And
we need to.
you
I've had this since you fell on the floor. I've had this bottle that I've been waiting for the opportunity to open up, and now
Since
we're
you
going to
fell on the
open it up,
floor.
aren't we?
it really happened.
Just right off this chair.
And by the way,
He's laying on the ground.
I didn't know
I
how.
look
at
at-
the
I
end
look
of the
at him.
show,
I look
and
at
I
him.
reached over and I went, you know what? I'm just gonna lay on the floor, and I didn't
Fell
get
over.
up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I look at. We're still talking. I look at Steve. I think he lost.
We had a show like that with you, dude.
Oh, I know.
Remember?
Yeah, I lost that day.
Or it was
Yep.
me and
George Pahone.
George Pahone. We got a long conversation about amps or something. We're talking. We're like, wait a
And we're in
second.
3 separate rooms.
We were in 3 separate rooms, but in the same building. We're like, we haven't heard from Dave for a minute. Is he okay? And he was like,
You can't talk anymore. That's because one didn't
No,
eat.
no.
One, we were drinking tequila. Didn't eat any food.
Woo!
Empty stomach. Tequila and Duval
Woo!
Belgian beer, which is 9% or whatever
Right,
it is,
exactly.
right?
It's not
And
What
it's
is
your
that?
grandfather's
And-
beer.
I don't know.
Original Combier.
Combier.
This is a French orange liqueur that
Oh.
we're going to use for.
For margaritas or something?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's the
Cadillac margaritas with it. Right.
No.
No.
not
We're
that
talking
one.
about
The
the.
white one.
That's it.
That's your favorite.
Don Julio 1942.
Well, they
Well, we're
brought
about
that
to
bottle
find out
over.
what my favorite is because I haven't opened up
Oh.
that other one before. It's been
Casa
sitting here
Azul.
this whole
Yes.
time unopened.
I don't want any mixed stuff. I just
No,
want
we're
pure.
not going to mix anything.
I'll take it.
But
You might take
Oh,
a margarita.
See,
No, we're
I
not
don't
doing
wanna
a
go there.
taste test with that. I know what one loses.
just so you know, and
You
we've
can
done this
say
before,
no,
but we're
Pete,
going to do
don't
it
worry.
again. This is where this bottle ended up the last time you were here.
Yes.
So
And
it's
it
still
started
in the
full.
same spot.
Yeah.
I haven't touched this
That's like beluga caviar.
because we're not because.
Well, those two are beluga caviar, and
Yeah.
I think actually the other one's
And
even
this is-
more.
and this is
beluga
my-
caviar.
This is my birthday Patron, which is only down to here. I'm just telling you, I'm so busy right now. I don't have time to enjoy this.
That's a good problem.
Patron would be good.
Well, don't make that
Not
our
a problem.
problem.
Patron would be good for margarita.
Yeah.
Definitely. That sounds good.
The other ones are good for sipping.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, we're gonna. You know what? This is actually good for margaritas. This is really
What is
good
that?
for margaritas.
Is that an anejo?
This was,
or no,
um,
reposado?
Anejo.
Tramana. This
Really?
Joe
A
gave me
Anejo for a
Oh,
margarita?
I gave you that.
Hmm.
this is
Oh,
the one you
yeah,
gave.
that's
Really?
right.
And we
That's
made
right.
some margaritas, and you said they
Yeah,
were great.
yeah.
Right?
Oh, well, okay.
So
Okay.
I like that this whole
Now,
cart. This
Steve, don't look at that. No, you're not allowed to look at that. Hey.
Comments on
Hey.
tubes? Is that what we
No,
want?
Yeah,
no,
you
no,
asked
no.
a question.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at the one about the Don
Here, do
Julio.
this.
I'm trying to read the Don Julio thing.
I'm probably
I think
not.
that Don Julio. I think I gave the Don Julio Dave.
I'm probably not supposed to show this. But
Oh
this-
no, you are.
That's what
actually.
appeared
great.
is just that cart with
kinds of- There's like all sorts of options, and it's like a very yeah. So there's it's like a full like it's like where did that
That just rolled out in the last 5 minutes.
This is our
what
card.
happens.
I
Yeah.
see. Okay,
That's the bar card.
I've never been
That
here,
happens,
so I
yeah.
don't know.
Just let me say, I wasn't sure what the
No,
audio
it's
was going to
never
sound
related.
like, because we've rearranged the room a little bit to get 4 people in it. So I've actually got 2 mics going. So if when the audio is working, if it sounds okay, you have nobody's bitched
Either
about
that
it.
or they're.
Because it's bigger. Does that help?
Oh, under the screen.
Oh yeah.
Hold on a second.
Who had the idea?
Okay, we're back. So you said you had a question for Pete?
Oh, we did this ad for the old. You remember the old Maxell commercials
Uh-huh.
where it was like, is it
Live or
live or is it
Memorex?
Memorex? It was
Yeah.
Memorex.
Yeah,
With the-
big
with the
blown
rim.
air.
Yeah, yeah.
We did one of those for the PT15 amp because it's like 15 watts, but it's
Right.
healthy 15 watts and lots of headroom and stuff. So Kevin had really long hair, Kevin Sir, who had, it was, John's son. He had a lot of hand in helping. That was just really his first amp project. John just kind of handed off to him and said, here, you do it with the boards and everything, the layout and everything. So it was a big project for him. And he did an awesome job. But anyway, that's him sitting on the couch with his hair blown back and me with the guitar. And it was, I think it might have been Justin, who's the artist fellow.
Geez, we got a lot of empty
It might
bottles.
have been
over
his
here.
idea.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
But I don't remember.
Everyone drank it.
Might have been my
Except
idea.
Pete.
It might have been what happened.
You didn't finish your beer.
It's pretty much done.
You know what?
It's pretty much all gone.
Take credit for that, Pete, because there's nobody
It's a
else
tall
here.
boy. You guys,
What are we doing
big,
here?
big one. What are we doing?
You still got a ways to go yet.
You
Oh,
might- yeah, just as
we're
well. It's gone.
So that's kind of the answer. Is it was maybe a collaboration
Nice.
slightly.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was
Margaritas.
Justin who's like,
Oh,
you remember
no
that old
margaritas for
ad
me.
from?
No, no
I was
sugar.
like, oh yeah. And it
No
was,
sugar?
I was like,
No
let's do
sugar.
it.
Okay,
And we
yeah.
shot it in
No
the front
sugar
end.
for
Straight
So-
tequila for me.
so out of the white bottle
Okay,
for Dave.
there we go.
And out of the
Yeah,
white
we shot
bottle
it in the
for-
front
And
end.
no
for
ice.
Sir. And
Actually, we should do shots of the white bottle because I've never
Oh.
tasted.
shots.
Not shots.
No.
Sipping.
Okay,
She's got
it. She knows what.
I might just have a nice margarita. That sounds amazing.
Well, she's gonna
get
make
to that.
those.
We'll get to that.
I can't have that much alcohol.
You've had a
Just can.
cider.
Huh?
You've had one cider.
I know, so I gotta be careful. 'Cause, I'm not. Look at. I just got back from. I got up at 2:45 a.m.
Hey, look, I just
Car
learned. I
drives you
just
home.
learned how to
You don't have
export
to argue with
PCB
these
designs
guys.
into 3D and manipulate them in
Export what?
PCB board designs into 3D,
Oh.
so that I can rotate them around and really sort of zero in on our.
How
Right.
it fits in the chassis and everything.
How it fits,
the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I've made the transition into 3D CAD software.
It's kind of cool, right?
It's fun.
It's
It is fun.
You can
Yeah.
you can test fit,
But
stuff.
I actually do it myself. I don't
Yeah.
pay somebody else to do it.
right.
No, I
I
understand.
learned it.
Whoever's having that,
And-
I pay someone else to do it.
If,
It's
You
okay.
pay someone else
if I can do
Yes.
that, if I can do that,
I don't
Well,
have
just
enough
do it.
brain capacity left to learn.
To do it, you could do it.
there's your
I know I
little
could
there's
do
your
it.
little taster shot.
Mm.
Yeah, that stuff is fascinating. A lot of design these days seems.
I
to
think
be
we
made-
need we need 4 of those in
it's
total.
already off the rails. We're
Yeah, we
already
need
off the
4 of
rails.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of design these days is done. I mean, so much of it is done before you actually build the
Well,
thing.
I want
And
mine
you
in that.
put all this time and effort into
class.
building and in CAD, right?
No,
Sure.
no, no.
And design.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. For
Yes.
instance, like like we routinely will test fit how the
I'm
circuit
drinking
board
half of this.
board drops into the chassis,
You
Right.
can do the
and
same.
will it fit if we
Thank
put it this
you.
way, and will it drop in, and the clearances and everything. And
Yeah.
yes,
You know what?
Just
That actually smells really good.
that's because
That's Casa Azul. All right.
Class Azul, yeah.
All right. Cheers.
really light, really light.
Cheers.
I just really want to taste.
Got more for him, more for him.
Somebody's trying to get us murdered.
Oh, cheers.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. This
she's
is,
trying to get back
these
at me for
fellows-
last time.
This is Dave's chosen. This is Dave's chosen vice.
It's really good.
Oh, come
It's
on.
really
now.
fucking great.
Yeah, it's as smooth as it
Where
gets.
is the
Okay,
name
Dave,
on
I've never had this before.
it? There isn't.
Oh, it's
This
the
makes
creme de la creme.
1942 look harsh,
It's like a vanilla little
and that's good.
pleasure. You know, it's
Okay, I
fantastic.
lied. I am going to drink this whole thing.
Uh,
I just told Pete I'm going to drink half of this.
See, but
I
but
can't.
in a,
This is
in a,
so-
in a
So smooth.
in a glass like this, it
It's like distilled 800 times or
Mhm.
something. It's like,
Oh, it's just so beautiful.
yeah, it's so
Oh,
smooth and
man.
with that little hint of vanilla. What's the barrel that they? It's like vanilla.
I'm not sure what they do, but I don't.
you know what? But it doesn't. Whatever barrel they're using, it doesn't. It's not as obtrusive as some barrel cured tequilas.
No, no,
it's
a little
not.
more
It's not
subtle.
smoky like you'd think, like an ex-bourbon.
But it doesn't need to
barrel
be
would
because
be.
No.
it's got this
But it's got
banana
a
thing going
vanilla-
on.
Yeah, I'm a-
banana, vanilla,
Caramel, vanilla.
caramel. Yeah, definitely.
Heroin.
Black tar. Black tar.
Yeah. The problem with starting to drink that tequila is then
You have to stop.
you can't.
Oh, I
You
can't.
have a hard time
I can't.
drinking other things.
Oh,
I don't.
you don't. It's switch back.
Not at all.
It is really difficult to go from that though to.
Hey Rob, how you doing?
The crappy
Good to
tequila.
see you.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes you can drink. If you go in straight with something that's
that's like going from Macallan 18 to Doers or something. You're
Glenn
gonna be
Livett,
like,
Just
what
don't
the
do that.
yeah, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. That's the key. Just don't.
Don't do
I
it.
think the lowest I go these days with straight is Casamigos.
Casamigos is
solid.
great.
Yeah,
Great.
Casamigos is solid.
Very
It's
nice.
great. It's a very fair price generally when you go out.
definitely.
Yeah, $50.
For the Reposado, it has a little bit of the notes of this.
Yeah.
But this is like the gold standard, and that's
This
the,
is
This is a
Unreal.
pleasure.
Dave, by the way, to answer that question, Stephen, Dave and Pete drove themselves separately. So that means I'm responsible for all of these guys.
Oh no, I didn't. I actually drove, but my wife took my car away. So
Hey,
so
see,
I'm,
that's what my wife
I'm
does, too.
Ubering home.
Someone
That's
is a
what my
grown
wife
up.
does too.
Either that, or I'm gonna chance it with him. He's gonna drop me halfway. I'm home.
Yeah, that's why this is my limit.
Yeah,
I gotta.
definitely.
Yeah.
But then again, your car can drive you.
No, we have
Dude,
we
don't
have
say
an
that. We're on
agreement.
the
We have an
internet.
agreement that I don't
That's
drive.
not what I do.
In exchange for I don't drive,
I don't
she
do
will
that.
come and pick me up off the sidewalk wherever I happen to end up.
No.
You got her.
No.
If it happens.
Actually, there's actually only one time I can remember in my life where I I woke up from a dream
Assault
and I was face
for
down
what?
on the sidewalk on Hollywood
Not for
Boulevard
this.
in front of a bar.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like in the morning?
No, it was like at around
She needs
2
to taste
o'clock
that.
at 2 a.m. Yeah,
Really?
no, when 2 a.m. The
Yeah.
bar was just closing.
And you were,
Somebody was shaking me,
oh man.
and
Hopefully not the police.
no, it was the bartender,
Oh,
and we were friends, and she goes, "Do you need a ride home?" And I said,
I think so.
I'm looking around. I'm like, where am I even? And what happened was I was there with 3 guys.
They left you.
They went to go get the car,
Oh.
but they didn't remember where the car was. So they had to run around the block a few times to try to find the car. And then this bartendress is trying to drag me to my feet and to throw me in her car so she can drive me home.
Oh,
As she's loading me into her car, my buddies drive around the block in my car. They go, "Hey, Z! Hey, Z!"
oh my God.
And so instead of getting in her car, which would have been the smart thing to do,
Yeah,
I got thrown in the back
of your car.
of my car, which was the Honda Civic hatchback,
Yeah.
with the hatchback open,
Oh,
driving over Little Canyon Boulevard.
Oh.
So, in other words, full acceleration, full exhaust poisoning coming in the
Oh
back.
my
of-
god.
yeah. Exhaust
I was so
I don't even want to
Sick.
think about
I was so
myself.
sick from exhaust poisoning when I got home. I wasn't sick from the alcohol. I was sick from exhaust poisoning.
It was a combo.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's go with it was a combo.
And one of the guys was at the time this guy who was really great. His name will come to me in a minute. Gordy. He was the bass player in Lita Ford's band for a while, and he was like the spitting image of Ron Wood, and the most fun-loving guy on the planet. And so we all drove to his apartment and dropped him off, and we all had to relieve ourselves. So we're pissing in the bushes in the front of his house, and his wife, who is
You
Irish,
can't make it in.
his wife, who's Irish, is standing in the doorway of the apartment in her robe. Her name was Mary.
With a rolling
She was a
pin?
sweetheart, but boy, did she have that streak in her.
Yeah.
She didn't speak to any of us for 2 years,
Oh wow, wow,
That's
And,
a hard
uh,
sentence.
and
Wow.
I ran into Gordon at an AM show 2 years after that episode with my buddy who was my roommate at the time, who's a bass player in a pretty well-known band whose name I can't think of right at the moment because I can never remember the name.
Just can't think of the band or the name of him.
You would know probably who they were if I could think of the name, and it'll come to me in a minute. But we saw Gordon with Marianne at the NAMM show, and we were like, hadn't seen them for 2 years. We're all like hugs, and Marianne was like this.
wow. You're like, oh come on.
So Scott, what
Have a
is Scott?
drink.
What is Scott? It was Mark Walton.
Mhm.
Mark Walton, bass player. Look him up, and then you'll know who he is. We're like going, oh, come on. It's been
Right.
2 years. And she's
Right.
like going, "Arr." So we both gave her this big, giant bear hug
Mhm.
and tickled her until
Until
she broke.
like kids.
And then she went, all right, it was pretty funny. She was purposely holding a grudge
Whoa.
for 2 years to
Oh.
punish us.
Wow.
And then when we finally broke her down, she
Yeah.
went, yeah, that was pretty fucking funny. I gotta admit.
That's
So it's
funny.
possible to just live in spite, just because I don't know why it gives you something
Oh my
to be
God.
against the universe about.
Yeah, that stuff is crazy. Like holding on to that kind of,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
remember. Do you have any good stories?
You got to let it go.
Oh, just family stuff and like where yeah.
let it
I mean,
go.
people holding grudges and it affects everybody. Like, oh, we can't go over there for Christmas. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because so
right.
and so is feuding with so and so. Hey,
That's
that affects
funny.
all of us. You know?
I remember this story.
You got to let go at some point, right?
Yeah.
This was Abe Laboriel Jr., you know, the drummer.
Yeah.
And he was saying that this is when he was, his parents are super religious, right?
Mm.
Abe Jr. and his mom. And Abe Sr.
Right.
and his mom are super
Yeah.
religious. And Abe Jr. was not.
And can I just say that Abe Senior is one of the most beautiful sweetheart of a human being on the planet,
Yeah,
bar
totally.
none. There's nobody that's a walking, talking bear hug like that guy is.
My
But
son is
Abe
very
Jr.
similar.
like
bear
was
hug.
doing a lot of different stuff at that point. You know, like I think he played with Steve Vai.
Yeah.
He's like the rock guy now, and he started the Raging Honkies.
Yeah,
with
Mike
Mike.
Lando.
And I guess there had been a lot of tension in the family about Abe Jr.'s decisions at this point.
Oh,
Interesting.
Like,
Mm.
and then I guess they had a big Thanksgiving dinner, and there wasn't a lot of communication going on between anyone. And the whole family's there, extended family, and finally, Mom says, "So, Abe, you know what have you been up to?" And she's like, "Well, I started a band with Mike and Teddy." She's like, "Oh, that sounds great. You know, well, what do you call it?" He goes, "The Raging Honkies." And she goes, she slams her fist on the table and goes, "Why didn't you name it the fucking fuckers?" And like, I guess the whole room went like silent for like 2 seconds, and then she started laughing. Like she shattered her own.
That was the
Yeah,
end.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And it was like, oh,
got it all
yeah.
out of her system
Yeah.
in one shot. Right?
that's amazing.
And, you know, actually, part of the reason that we all got together was because Dave's the instigator that he is, but also
No.
the thing that sort of underscored it was I went over to Dave's place a couple of weeks ago and returned his
Hi, what?
Highwatt amp,
Finally.
and we were just talking about, you know, the death of tubes and the stuff that
Remember that
the
question?
YouTubers that are out there talking about, you know, which modeler is the thing that's going to make you drop all of your tube amps, and those same guys 1 week later are on to the next modeler that's going to signal the death knell for
Sure.
tube amps. And meanwhile, tube amps aren't going anywhere. And then both of you guys, Pete walks in, we start chatting. He starts like getting up to speed on the conversation. And before I knew it, they're both all
Sorry.
Dave, this is heaven.
nothing.
I can't, you're just,
Yes, I know.
this, like,
Cheers.
I keep smelling it too.
Yeah, I know. This is heaven.
it is.
That's
Let me
really nice.
tell you something. If you have a bottle sitting in front of you and say you're doing a Tone Talk show or something like I do, that can get ugly after a while.
Yeah, a couple hours.
Well, it's
Yeah.
very easy
Especially
to
'cause
drink
you're in
over
that
a
room
long
on
period
your
of
own.
time. Yeah,
You just keep sipping.
just keep sipping.
You realize you just sipped like $120.
I just realized
Oh,
that
yeah.
half the bottle's gone. Whoops.
Yeah.
So anyway, these guys both gang up on me. You know, what you should do. You should release a 2150. You should do it. Do it. Do it. And they're
Well, that's
like,
because you brought it up.
I
No.
brought it up. I brought it up to
These
talk.
guys want
It's
to
like
do.
Rashomon.
I brought it up to raise the conversation about, with all the guys that are saying the tube amps are dead, why are all these people contacting me saying, are you gonna you did the classic power amp, are you gonna do the 2150 next? And Pete just like goes right for the, oh, do it, man, do it. You know, and it
Yeah.
reminded me of,
Why
It's
not?
always the
it
answer.
reminded me of
Well-
Sam Kinison doing his bit about partying for 3 days, and then all of his friends egging him on to like piss in his suitcase. You know? And that's exactly how I felt. Like, yeah, I'm glad I could be the entertainment for all of you guys. And like, my clothes are all wet now. Thanks a lot, pal.
Well, do it.
Yeah.
Seriously, but seriously, my feeling about this, because I have a serious feeling about it, it's the same. I mean, for the first time, was it last year? Vinyl outsold CDs, right? For of sales of physical media,
Huh?
you know, and so there's.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I went to a hi-fi store in my neighborhood the other day, and
It's the only
they
media
do-
that's selling.
Well, and that's part of the offset.
Yeah.
But I mean, we all know that there's lots of record stores these days, and there's lots of hi-fi going on. I went to the store the other day. They've got, like, in my hood, they've got these curated systems from $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000, and they put together all these hi-fi, and they sell records in there and stuff. It's great. It's like this whole thing. And right down the street, there's another record store. Like right down the street, it's like this is a whole thing. And so it's like I just feel like it's kind of akin. There's room for everything. I mean, because I'm a guy that, I mean, I'm starting to tour on Tuesday. I'm using a quad Cortex on Tuesday for the tour because it makes sense for this certain band that I'm in. It's a quick on and off the stage.
Right.
It's like there's a lot of reasons why it's the right decision to use for that thing. And I'm a big fan of it. It works great. I'm a two-band nut. I love all this stuff. I love it all, and I'm not going to quit anytime. I don't see why it can't exist.
If there was no barriers, you would choose probably to use some amps.
When there's no barriers,
You know,
and there's a full crew, and I can bring my own stuff,
Shipping
and
costs,
exactly.
voltage.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, the
all
shipping
this
cost
different
thing is kind of
shit.
interesting. You know, like I find that some of these bands that they say the shipping cost, they then build rigs as big as they've ever had
With an axe
effects, and they're still
it's
carrying
true.
cabinets with a power amp.
Okay, perfect example.
true.
So
I
Stone
wanna
Temple
talk
Pilots
to you about
took their 18 space rack and shrank it down to 2 4-space racks, so 8
Mm-hmm.
in 2 separate cases, so they could handle them more easily. But wherever venue they go to, they just rent whatever Marshall Slant 412 cabinets are there because that's what Dean's is used to using.
Yeah.
So he's basically using the same thing. The only difference is they would be using our cabinets, but we don't have shitty, broken down, burned out cabinets in every major
backline
city,
company.
in every state, in every country in the world.
Yep.
So it's just like, how many stories do you hear about? Yeah, I just got back off of a tour, man. Let me tell you how many broken down fucking twin reverbs I had to play through.
Yeah, or crashed 412s,
Yeah.
75s, and
Well, and in that respect, if you're having to do that all the time, maybe something like a Kemper or something like a thing makes sense.
and that's when I use it.
because
the
because
consistency.
you at least from night to night have the same crappy sound.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing it,
But it's
in
the same.
October where I'm playing guitar and bass on the same gig.
Okay.
Like
Tell me you're
swapping
playing them
and-
simultaneously, please.
Sometimes
Do you
the
have-
same song.
do you have the
Flipping
V-shape
between them?
Instrument with the bass on the left and the guitar
Well,
on
see,
the
that
right.
might be good for a quad Cortex.
That's
Yeah.
why because you can have
That's what I'm
you can have
thinking.
4 different rigs. You get the thing with a quad Cortex is you can actually have 4 different rigs. You could have 4 band members playing through it because there's 4 ins and 4
You're
outs
answering my
with
question.
4 processor paths. I mean, yeah, it's like it's very versatile for things for
So
situations.
how often does the drummer say he needs more overdrive on the snare?
but you
More
know what?
gain! Come on!
More
You
gain
know,
on the snare.
where
And cowbell.
it seems
More cowbell.
to be
Foo
frustrating,
Fighters!
where it's
Foo Fighters.
where it seems to be frustrating people though with guitar players.
Yeah.
Is they get tired. They get fucking tired of these menus and pages
Absolutely.
and hooking it up to an editor and like, wait,
I'm a
where's
nerd
the
and I get
volume
tired
knob?
of that stuff.
Where's the gain? What do you mean slew rate on the transformer? What?
Yeah.
And how
There's
do I
different-
turn?
that's
Do I
a
put
good
my
one.
depth here, or do I put my thing there? Do I put it there? Do I put it here?
Yeah.
What sounds better? Which cabinet should I use?
You know
Oh
what?
God!
There's different kinds of, even with young players, because young players, you'd be like, oh, well, they can acclimate, right? They get used to it because it's like they're super hip and they can work with computers. They can, but I know I was going to say Jordan Ziff is an example of somebody that came to you recently.
He
and
goes,
it's like,
yeah. I mean, we won't
No,
talk about what we were talking about, but
Yeah.
We won't talk about
but
I want
he's
you to
like,
talk about
I
it,
don't
yeah.
want. I can't.
menus.
I don't want
Oh, yeah.
a menu.
The menu.
He's
thing.
I want a
Certain kind of guy.
knob. I want a knob on an amp. I want to just go quick, more volume, done,
Right.
out, playing.
Right.
I want it minimal
And
pedals.
I appreciate that.
I want a delay
so
pedal.
hard.
Call it a day. That's
Yeah.
it. Delay pedal.
But what if that's what's next in the modeling realm or the computer realm is like a minimalist approach?
Well, that is a quad cortex in a way because there's
I didn't
it's the
mess with
first
it
thing
yet.
that I've ever used where I don't have to crack a manual. Really.
Okay.
Okay, I have an answer for you actually. Minimalist is relative to the user.
Absolutely.
So what's minimalist for you is this one pedal, this one amp, this one cab. What's minimalist for you is this different pedal, this different amp, and this different cab.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So a rig like that is actually being produced by Thomas Blue Guitar. His new Blue Guitar amp rig is that. It's got all the pedals that you can imagine.
The newest thing, right?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
newest thing, and all the pedals that are in it aren't models. They are analog recreations of those pedals. They're all done in surface mount, so it's really
What does this
compact.
thing look like?
It's just a little pedal board,
A little-
Oh, do you see that?
but it's got all these different pedals in it that you can select. They're actually analog pedals. So he created them all, and that means
Yeah.
he's got like 30 or 40 pedals in the thing, because
Hmm.
one for you, one for you, one for you, and none for me. But they're all in there, and then whatever the amps are models and the speaker cabs are models, but the pedals are all analog pedals.
How heavy is it?
It's
Negligible?
probably weighs 1.5 times your iPhone. It's stupid. So I went and I'm like, Thomas, I love you, man. I love you to death. I know that you've got a great brain and you're a great player, and I know that you understand what great sounds are like and all that. But bullshit. And then I plugged into it and I went,
Oh, I'm
I
bullshit.
fucking hate you.
Yeah.
I mean, there was still a
Well,
certain...
kudos to you for not hanging on to your preconceived notion and
Well,
actually
but
going,
I
hey.
mean, at the end of the day, and this happened just really recently. At the end of the day, it was fun to play.
Hey, man.
That's saying a lot.
That's
yeah.
what it is. That's
Because
what
it
it's
was
about.
fun to
Yeah.
play. And Thomas made a video of it. This was happened at the NAMM show. He made a video of it, posted it on his site of me having a blast playing through his rig,
Oh.
because it was a
You
blast
can
playing through his
see it.
rig,
You
right?
can see
Yeah.
that.
See?
Yeah.
He was like, see, this is the guy that should hate this. And well, okay, if he's
Well,
is he
maybe
using
that's
it?
the key. Is
Great, but
making something that's fun. You know,
Yeah.
that if you that's the intangible. Where if you can plug in and go, and you forget like this is a piece of technology, and I don't want to like this because I like tube amps. Or if you plug in, you're just like.
You're just off.
And then like
playing.
10 minutes later, you're like, oh shit, I don't want to like this, and I actually like it.
yeah.
Right.
Who
You
was
know,
it that just
right.
said,
Right?
I think Black Crows, Rich Robinson,
Yeah.
had just done that amp company or something with someone.
Oh, I don't
Where
know.
he's making like kind of JTM 45 kind of amps.
Okay.
But he was saying about modelers, it's like the guitar, for me, he goes, the guitar has to be extension. The amp is an extension of the guitar, is an extension of the music. It all works in conjunction. If you
It's the
don't
same instrument.
feel,
Yes.
if you don't
It's all part of the instrument.
feel it and get the response from the amp and the cabinet and the guitar and the part, it's
You're not really
doesn't-
playing
Yeah.
it
it
yet.
doesn't,
It's not the
it's
full
not
instrument.
music, you know.
But
like-
this is also akin to, and this is slightly different. But when Dave Navarro was on your show, he did the best explanation of why speakers moving air
Mhm.
and why monitors and a PA and everything's so important. Because I'm I use in-ears when I have to. Once again,
Yeah.
But he's like, my experience of this is the way he said it. He goes, my experience of playing guitar is there's some coming from back there, those things, right? There's some coming from up here, the PA
Yeah.
blowing out in the crowd. There's a little bit coming from here, and then I can hear the crowd, and that's my experience.
Yeah, it's my comfort.
It's
And then
not
you feel
here
it also
with-
vibrating against your
Yeah,
stomach,
and
too.
that does not
Like, it's
happen when you put it right here. If that's the only
Joe,
thing
highlight
you've got,
this
it's
one.
like playing a different instrument.
Cucho
It's
Carl.
not-
Again, nanotubes.
I
like that
What's that?
Correct.
So
And that's so correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, I always wondered. I always think about these certain metal bands that are doing modelers and things, and you see
like
the
the Genty
stage.
guys.
You see the stage. Well, no, not necessarily the Genty guys. You see the stage, and it's void of cabinets, and it's void of everything, and they're playing this extremely aggressive music.
Yeah.
What in these little things? I don't.
Mhm.
I don't get how you could get that aggression and that feel and that want to play that music from just the in-ears.
Well,
I
I guess
don't get it.
it depends.
You
I mean,
need an amp behind you that blows some air.
Hendrix
Maybe it doesn't
metal.
have to be that much volume, but it has to have something.
Hendrix on Dick Cavett. Cavett said, "Why do you play so loud?" And he says, "I need to have the sound go through people's soul."
Yeah.
he wanted,
Love that.
he felt like horsepower. It's all about the horsepower.
Yeah.
I need to blow through.
That was before
Because
PAs. and
when
all
you're
this
that's
shit.
before
Yeah,
His
PAs were
music
good.
wouldn't have sounded
Yeah.
like his
But
music
when you were
without
sitting,
that.
when you were
Amen.
sitting in
That's
the
true.
audience
Yeah.
roasting away, and you felt this onslaught of sound
Oh, it's
coming
awesome.
at you,
And that brings
it
up a
was
thought.
beyond what the tone was or what notes he was playing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It was like, wow! It was just the same thing with Muddy Water and the light and his presence. It was
Sure.
that isn't something that you can model. So I was going to say something about we were talking about the modeling thing, and I was going to say that this new Premier guitar, Monsters of High Gain
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
So Prashant Aswani is playing through every amp. He's using the same backing track, playing the same part
I haven't
over
heard this yet, but I heard about him doing it.
through every amp that is
Really?
participating in the
Mhm.
in the shootout. It's not really a shootout. It's just he's playing the same thing through every single amplifier, so you can basically
That's pretty
decide
interesting.
which maybe 2 or 3 that you are most
wanna hear that.
interested in hearing, and then A, B, C, D those.
Yeah.
If you can actually do that, that would be difficult to really pull off.
If
It
they actually
demands
dialed in the amp
it
right, too.
demands that the user spend some serious time and listen to it through
Yeah.
good speakers. But if you do that, you might get something out of it. The point I wanted to make was we were the last company to send them an amp.
Mm.
We sent it at the very last minute before the
Mhm.
deadline, or we sent it actually 2 days past the deadline.
Mm.
And Prashant calls me and he goes, "There's just something, I just need to ask you a couple of questions about this amp." Okay, what about it? He says, "Well, first of all, is it normal that when you turn it just past 9 o'clock, it tears your fucking head off?"
Mhm.
And I go, "Yeah."
Mhm.
I said, if you go online and you search Deliverance, you're going to find that there's a whole cult of Deliverance owners for whom that is its salient characteristic. That's the most important thing.
Right.
That it's the master volume isn't a master volume. It's the danger switch. And you basically decide one day that
I know what I would have said to him
you're
on the
going to
phone.
dare yourself to go one notch above 9 o'clock.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I know what you would say. Yeah.
Volume and how it comes to your soul and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a comment.
Okay.
All right.
And you were involved.
Let's see.
Me?
Mhm.
Yeah, we're good. And so I said, yes, that's true. That's part of it. And he goes, the other thing is, 2 other things is, besides that, he says, like, why is it so powerful? And I said, well, I told you that the power amp behavior is an important part of how the Deliverance sounds. And when you use it, the master volume, so that the power amp is cleaner, it becomes a more modern amp. But the interesting thing about that amp is if you push the power amp, it starts to go back in time into this more classic rock kind of a vibe, but you need to push the power amp to do that. It's designed to do that, but you're going to need an attenuator to do that. And he goes,
Or not.
well, that's kind of a drag because, I mean, if you have to have an attenuator, and I said, stop right there. Stop right there. Name me one of the amps of all the amps that you've reviewed so far that you would go to a gig and play that loud. He goes, well, none of them. And I said, exactly. Thank you. So all of them, if you wanted to get that sort of a behavior out of it, you would need it to use it with the power station, wouldn't you? And he goes, absolutely. And I said, okay, are we done here? And he said,
Stop
okay.
being a.
He said, okay, one more thing. He said, besides all of that, it's really fucking fun to play.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Please say that in the review.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
So now what would you have said, please?
No, I'm not going there.
No, please, come on.
But what were you going to say about
I've
volume?
been waiting for this. I was
Yeah, you had a thing
You had
about.
a thing
Well,
about
it just would have been
volume
simple
and-
after that. It would have been stop being a
Oh,
I'm not gonna
Oh, that
not gonna go there. You guys can add. You can add it yourself.
He's
in
a
there,
great
whatever you
guitar
say.
player.
He's
and
he's a good dude.
Yeah,
I like
100%.
Sean.
But you
Um,
had something to say about
Well, yeah, when you were talking about volume and Hendrix and it. How did you? What was the comment? It
the comment was,
soul.
I'm ready for a margarita. That
No,
was the
well,
comment.
okay, that might that. What was the comment though about Hendrix? Where the volume
Oh, through the soul.
through the
He
soul?
says,
Right?
I need to reach people's soul.
Okay, so what that reminded me of is the time we were at the LA Amp show.
Oh,
Zach
my God.
Wild comes in
Oh.
the Metropolis room,
Oh yeah.
and
The
he
LA Amp show, the show with the show whose promotion still uses a 1980 website.
yes.
Yeah.
1980.
So
Look it up.
Zach Wild comes in the Metropolis room,
Yeah.
takes 200-watt amps, and he takes like some pedal, it's in both chorus pedal or something into both,
I was playing
and
when he came
oh,
in.
well, you were playing.
I was playing.
Oh, and he hooked it up. He hooked the chords up.
He goes, check this out. This is how I do it. And he hooked up to the 200 watt. This is in a hotel, by the way.
200-watt half
where they-
stacks,
They take the beds out of the rooms.
Yeah.
and he
Put amps in.
put in the chorus
Uh,
into both amps,
Yeah.
and he turned them all to 10,
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And I was like,
and
yeah,
it was just like
yeah, that was fun.
going through your, just like
Wow.
when volume becomes so much, it makes you're floating.
He shared,
Yeah.
he shared his
Yeah.
beer with me.
That's
too.
cool.
He had a Heineken.
That's when he-
was
that's when he
passing
drank,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still
We were like
doing beer.
sharing a
Yeah,
Heineken.
that was how many? That was quite a few
you
years
could
ago now.
quit. Yeah, he had
He quit shortly
basically-
after, I think.
Yeah, I think he was like off the, but he was like,
Yeah.
kind of sneaking.
I was
Whoa, really?
working with an artist in I think probably about 1986 or 7, and we were recording in at A&M when it was still A&M, and in the small studio at A&M, which is now the Henson Studio,
Right.
and they were working on it, and I had 2 Marshall slant cabinets and 2 JMP heads cranked all the way up, and I had a preamp that I made myself and some stuff all hooked together, and this Kramer Strat,
Mhm.
and they had just remodeled the studio, so it wasn't entirely all working, and the producer was Joe Ciccarelli, who's a good
Oh, yeah.
friend of
Mhm.
mine
Yeah.
from way back, and a more lovable human being you don't find on the planet very
I
often.
saw him recently.
And
He was
I
Joe
just
was
thought
a-
that we were buds enough that
cabinets.
whenever I'm friends with somebody, I decide it's okay to fuck with them, right? Because they'll understand that it's all from love, right? So
Depends on what you're doing.
2 things are going on. Number 1, I'm telling the drummer that I want him to play a certain way, but the talkback system is working. At the same time, I'm telling him I want him to do the part this way. Joe's in the control room telling him the opposite thing.
Oh,
And he comes
2
into the
producers in a
he
room.
comes into the studio and he gets right in my face going, one of us is the producer here. And I'm like, what? And then it turns out that the talkback system isn't working right. So they
Oh.
bring in a guy, he fixes it, and then he goes back. And then the next episode was I'm working on a sound and he says, okay, don't touch anything. And I go, okay. So I just start to play and I thought, needs a little bit more treble. So I do this. And he goes, comes in right in my face. I told you not to touch.
Such a malcontent.
And I said, I didn't. I just tweaked the treble a little bit. I didn't change anything. And he's like,
I'm so not like that. I've never been like that.
and then the third one, the clincher was, he comes in, he says, okay, he tells me, I got the headphones in, he tells me on the talkback mic, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to move the mic, don't play. And I go, okay, I won't. I'm just sitting here like this. And he comes in and he goes, don't play. And I go, I'm not going to play. And so he goes and he starts moving the mics, and I muted the strings with my fingers, and I just turned the guitar volume from 1 to 0.
Just a little.
Just 1 to 0.
Right.
And he just like, boom!
Was this your record, or were you playing on
I
somebody's
was
record?
somebody else's record.
And you were
I had
behaving
written,
like
I had
this?
written a couple of songs on it, but it was like
Man,
he just like, this is my career. This is my career. And that's it. And I'm just like, hey, I wasn't gonna play, but he just heard that.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
he
the sound of
just
impending doom.
dressed me
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And then the final thing in this session was after all of that, he's really pissed off because every time he does a take, we're still working at. Yeah. Every time he does a take, he plays it back and there's this boom, 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 boom in the track.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, "What are you doing?" Now it's all my fault because he
Because
thinks,
it's on your track.
yeah, because he's thinking that, okay, now what are you doing to torment me, right?
Right.
Over and over and over again. And then and when we stop, the noise stops, and I start tracking, and he records it again.
But is he
Bang,
soloing
bang,
things?
bang, bang, huh?
Is he soloing things and going, "It's on your track, Friday"?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was playing an overdub, so I was the only one in the
Oh, I see. Okay.
studio. And he says, "Come in here and listen to this." So I go out of the studio to listen to it. I open the door and it won't open. It opens out.
Oh.
And it won't open. So I'm pushing it open.
Oh, it's the
And I
door.
push the door open a little bit, and there's a moving blanket over the door.
Oh.
And who's the producer guy that was involved with the headphones?
Dr. Dre.
Yeah,
Oh, Beats. Dr. Dre.
yeah. Who was
Yeah,
the producer?
Dr. Dre.
The producer that was also involved in that project.
Jimmy?
Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jimmy Iovine is out in the hallway nailing moving blankets over the door of the studio because I'm playing so fucking loud. It's bleeding into tracks that he's recording for Daniel Lanois in the studio next door.
Oh.
And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you just tell me and I'll just stop?" And he goes, "No, it's okay." Bang, 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 bang. And that's all like coming
This
through.
is what's on your
Yeah.
tracks. Oh man.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Oh.
That's how I met Tony.
Like
That's
I
a
bring
good
my own
one.
hammer choir.
That's how I met Jimmy Iovine. He's like on a. It was like the Muddy Water story. He's up on the ladder, hammering
Wow.
nails into the wall.
doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Man, I would have
That's
loved to have checked out the Daniel Lanois session. One of the best shows I ever saw was a
Okay.
Daniel Lanois show.
Yeah, me too, man. That guy, Daniel Lanois, is an exceptional
Oh, deep.
guitar player,
He
man. So
is.
deep.
Okay.
He, I saw him at. Do you remember Spaceland?
You want?
I'll pass this over there. So.
Do you remember Spaceland?
Yes.
In
Do you want rocks or do you want it this way?
I'll have. I shouldn't, but I will have a little bit more straight. Neat.
I'm out for now. I'm still finishing my.
You want a margarita now?
No, I'm okay.
Thank you.
I'm okay.
We got.
Okay.
You don't have to drink the whole thing. You just got to taste it.
I'll have a taste, but I can't. You know, if there's a
I think
taste.
you
then,
didn't.
That's
you
a little
didn't
small.
eat, right?
That's it.
Simpson.
Yeah, I'll have a taste. I'm not going to drink.
All right.
I'm taking it because. I have to.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Can we talk about tubes now?
Cheers.
Talk about
Eventually,
tubes now? Yeah, let's talk about tubes.
maybe next.
But I do
July.
want to talk about
Oh wait, Pete wants stuff. That's fine.
just for a second, Daniel Lanois. I saw him at Spaceland. The other, I saw him play live twice. One of them was at Spaceland, and the other gig was at a roller rink off of La Brea in like south of the 10 somewhere, and it was for some private party for like a movie release or something.
Oh,
like
that roller rink that's over there. The
It's off of
something
La Brea and,
yeah.
like maybe Venice, like super. This is like east of La Brea and Venice, just east of.
Mhm, mhm.
So there's a roller rink there. So anyway, he was playing in the center of the. We were roller skating around while they were playing. It's crazy. But anyway, this guy that
How about
produced U2 and everybody under the sun, right?
Yeah.
He's amazing. But his gig at Spaceland in particular, he was playing an AC30 gold top Les Paul with P90s.
Yeah, the
And-
Les Paul.
Yeah, and he maybe had like a fuzz and a couple other effects, and he played with it. He was one of the only guitar players I've seen where he plays and you don't understand how the sounds are coming out.
Right.
And his fingers are doing
But then you
things.
kind
and
of
it's-
turn that off,
and
and
it's-
you turn it off, and it's just music.
Oh yeah, it's just
I'm not
music
even gonna-
because
yeah.
it's seamless, and the way he was
Mhm.
playing and the way he was using
the
the
musicians
fuzz.
he plays with, it's so vibey and
Yeah, and he would hit the fuzz in the verse,
yeah,
like not let's get loud, it's the chorus.
Exactly.
Let's get
yeah.
let's get quiet.
It's a texture.
and
It's
then
not
the
a.
fuzz.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not an aggression tool.
Yeah, I know. It was like, what the hell? Like, it was so cool. He was one of the most unique guitar players I'd seen, and it was such a great show.
I saw him do a clinic at the LA College of Music.
Hmm.
And so he was playing, and then he would stop and talk about what they were doing. This was probably 5-6 years ago.
Cool. That's awesome.
And that was because he's really interesting to hear talk too. Like he's
Oh, I
almost
bet.
as interesting to hear talk as he is to play, and the music's just it's perfect.
Thought you might need
music
this
me.
to help properly tell the story.
Yeah.
Look at
Oh
that.
no, what's this one?
What a hunk of junk!
Oh,
I know
cool.
this guitar.
That's a 1999 R4.
So, man, I had a 54 that is my biggest regret that I sold. That was,
A real
I bought.
54,
Yeah, I had a
or-
real 54.
Did it have a
That-
massive neck?
It wasn't as big as this. It had a little more of a V thing going on, like some of them do, but it was a similar,
I had a
for sure.
53 that
Yeah.
felt great, but didn't sound good. And I parted with
Was
it.
yours the
I
original
loved
finish?
mine, but so the top had been refinned sometime in the 70s was the story, but it was always getting green. It was already getting green again.
That's
checking.
beautiful.
So it was just like, and the rest was all, as it, and it, I'm trying to remember if it had a headstock repair or not. I don't think so. I think it was just the refin top. Maybe it had a headstock repair. It's so long ago. It was 90, it was 93 or 4 that I bought it. And then I sold it in like 96. And I was like, wow, I made like $600. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Off what I
Yeah,
did good on this
yeah,
guitar. And now I'm like, holy shit. Because I literally bought it for like $2,000. That's what I paid for it.
Do you remember when you
And
picked
it
it up
would
from?
now be worth, even with the, I think it was a headstock repair, and it definitely had this
Well, they sound
refin
better.
top. But let's say that even with that
Yeah.
shit, it would be $33,000 now. Like a minty one
Mhm.
is 48, right?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it would be a $30,000 guitar, maybe a $25,000 guitar if you're hurting.
If you think about that really hard at night,
It sucks.
it
Okay,
makes you want to kick yourself 3 times.
so how did it sound?
It sounded great. There's one reason that I sold it. It had the truss rod rattled in the neck a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit. So I play it, and it had a
Did,
sometimes when I play.
did it also cancel out some notes because of that?
I don't know, but just the it's like you couldn't really hear it in an amp, but that bothered me.
Yeah.
And I remember I told that to Sir, and he was like, "Oh, I could have fixed that." And a lot of them did that. He goes, "I can fix that in 10 minutes." I was like, "Don't
then
tell me that."
Yeah,
He's like, 'cause I
right.
sold it.
Thank you.
It bothered me.
Tell
I had a guitar like that just had this. You know what? Why I have this is I originally had a 68.
That's what I was looking for when I bought it. I wanted a 68, and I found this. How about
Oh.
a 53 or 54 with a refin top and a repair?
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
I didn't know what it was, but I got a 68 gold top that was one of those 50s
Yeah,
guitars that was sitting in storage, and they finished them in 68.
right.
yeah,
Browers
yeah,
had a gold
yeah.
top, 68 gold top.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And
Did
Yeah.
it
I
was
rented them
amazing,
all the time.
but certain notes you played, he went,
Yeah, the neck.
and I never understood what that was. So,
Yeah.
all right,
Rod.
I finally, okay,
After all these years,
after all these years, after all these shows,
Able to kind of retroactively assess whether it really sounded.
I'm gonna go with that was a period of time where I was actually
Lou Wood
learning.
says I have a 69 gold top.
Oh, that's cool. Did they got a big? They went to the bigger heads. Some of the still had the small headstock.
right?
Well,
Well,
they got a little
you
bit.
could tell there was the first ones that they made. They had a smaller headstock, and they didn't have as much carving on the top,
Right.
and they were a little heavier.
Right.
Then right after that, you could tell they were pulling out the junk, the ones that didn't cut it on the first pass.
Uh-huh.
They had more play around the pickup hole,
I was gonna say.
Oh.
so they
exactly.
put a little white, a little cream plastic trim ring
Mm-hmm.
around the outside to cover that,
Yeah.
and those are distinguished by the pickup covers having the Gibson name embossed on the top.
Okay.
So the first one I had was the 68. That got stolen at a gig.
Mm.
And the one that replaced it was another 68 that was the slightly later version. It was also really nice, but wasn't as good as the first one that I had.
Sorry.
And I sold that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I bought a 53 from Groon
Mm.
in probably 1998 that was nice, but it just didn't sound very good, and it wasn't any fun to play.
Mm.
And I sold it for a good amount of return. I don't regret getting rid of it. My only regret was the person that bought it. I think he was one of those guys that turned gold tops into,
A conversion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
burst conversion.
Well, maybe it was better. Maybe it sounded better.
maybe,
Yeah.
but I always have a little thing about that.
I do
mean,
too, unless it's an issues guitar.
Yeah.
Unless it's already got issues.
Just because it's
Yeah.
old doesn't mean it's good.
That's
That's
absolutely
what
That's
I've
true.
learned
Yeah.
from it.
That's true.
Like I remember a client of mine had at one point in time 359s,
Oh.
and and we played them all through amps.
He
The
did
w-
what?
He actually
And-
played them,
And
Get
you-
out.
And you were thinking,
and the one he
Get
got
out.
the one he got very first, the one that was the most beat on, the one that just was beat up, just horribly beat up. By far, that guitar sounded better than the other two,
Well, that makes sense.
like
because
Yeah.
you just want.
a million times over.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And it was Oliver.
Yeah.
And man, he still has that old the one he got first for $50,000.
Did he dump the other two?
Bought it for $50,000, which at the time was ungodly amount of
Sure.
money
Yeah.
when he bought it.
Yeah.
50,000.
It was like in the 90s.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, $350,000.
Oh, dude, it's crazy, man. I mean, it's like
And,
what happened. What happened from like 1990 till.
But that particular one is magic. The PAFs in it just have this thing.
yeah.
They have this.
Yeah.
Some PFs will be scooped kind of
Right.
bright on the top end.
Yeah.
This one has more of a mid hump on the pickup, and it just sounds the right grindy thing for a Marshall. It just sounds like just
And
beautiful.
And you know what? That isn't guitar specific because I played a 51 Nocaster. A friend of mine was selling it for another guy. He had it in a case under his bed for decades. And his wife wanted to buy a new house. And so he sold it. He put it up for sale to make a down payment on a new house that his wife wanted. And so he had it at his place, and I went and visited him, and he pulled it out of the case. I never even plugged it into an amp. He opened it up, and the smell that came out of the case right there was just like, okay, I wonder how much I can get for the company.
Yeah.
And-
company.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
If I
smell
sell
of
the company and
Yeah.
absolutely. Sorry.
And
the smell of Brazilian rubber.
Oh
and I played one chord on it, and I went, holy fucking shit. Leo got it nailed the very first fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And everything after that was just almost as good.
Right. Yeah.
And I just
Right.
thought, oh
One
my
of those
God.
tones.
And I
Yeah.
played through it, and I finally got a chance to play through an amp, and I played it through a Brown Vibrolux.
Mm.
And it felt like playing a Les Paul Jr. through a 50-watt Marshall half stack. It was
Mm.
exactly the same experience.
Yeah.
Sonically, feel-wise, emotionally, had nothing to do with the guitar or the amp. Just the two pieces work together so flawlessly
Mm.
that if you were in another room, you would think I was playing a Les Paul through a Marshall.
Right. Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
went, okay, all of my preconceptions about amps behaviors and guitar behaviors and how they work together are out the fucking window. This machine and this machine and this machine all work together a certain way, and fuck everybody
Right.
that thinks that there's anything deeper to it than that. There just absolutely isn't. When you bond with an instrument and then you bond with the right amp simultaneously,
Mm.
yeah.
it just doesn't matter. Now what you do
Sure.
when you have that, what you do is you go lock yourself in a room and you write an album's worth of songs in 45 minutes.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I recorded, I worked with Howard Benson. He produced the Motorhead Bastards album.
Yeah.
And those guys just blew through the tracks.
Hmm.
They were doing Crank on the console.
So they were what they advertised themselves
Lemmy
as.
comes in the studio at the end of the day, pulls this wrinkled up piece of paper out of his back pocket, one sheet of a spiral notebook paper, puts it on the stand, and sings all the album vocals in an hour and a half.
So he was fucking rock and roll.
And after that, Howard, who's Jewish, said something that Lemmy didn't like. And the next day, the entire band showed up at the studio in full Nazi regalia.
Oh, man.
It was insane. A couple of weeks later, Phil Lynott died, and I saw a Lemmy at the bar at the Key Club drinking, leaning over, sobbing uncontrollably that his friend Phil Lynott had died.
Wow.
You know,
And I'm just like going, this character is just like an amazing
yeah.
force
By the
of
way,
nature.
we started out the show talking about, and I mentioned my sister, right? Big
Yeah,
fan Lizzie.
yeah.
I have a clear memory of being 13 years old and her coming. My parents were out for the night, and her coming down to the kitchen and pouring herself a big glass of whiskey. Yeah, like straight booze, and sitting down
Bill's
at the
gone.
table. And I have a memory of a cigarette as well, like her maybe lighting a cigarette, and that could be me embellishing because I don't. But I was like, all I knew. Well, she was like 16, and I was like 13, and I just remember going like, and I go like, I'm watching TV, and I'm like,
What is happening?
what's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And it was Phil had died, and that's what a
Wow.
Thin Lizzy fan she was. And she
Yeah,
was 16 years old.
And,
She's
and,
like,
and Phil and Lemmy were
my
really
son.
close, tight buddies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's he had that kind of effect on people.
But that whole thing of just
I just remember
in that
something
studio,
about Lemmy.
Oh yeah,
in that studio, Lemmy is
Okay,
playing
I'll-
through a broken down, fucked up, humming, buzzing, crackling Marshall head.
Oh yeah, they always
what
did.
do you
They
call
had-
it?
they
It's
had
called
Murder One.
Murder One, right? Yeah.
The one that I saw, the Marshall logo was mangled to spell "No Morals," and it was playing into this 415 cabinet that was literally.
Yeah,
It looked like it was made.
Marshall 415, right?
No, it was
Oh, is
looked
that-
like it was made from plywood that he just picked up that day from Home Depot and nailed together.
Mm.
A layer of varnish slapped on the outside and a big iron cross bolted to the front, nailed to the front, and it was all rattling like fucking crazy. And like, okay, we're ready to go. Half the distortion
What
of
do
the
you-
sound
what do you even
was the
call-
vibration of the cabinet.
Yeah, what do you even call Motorhead music? I mean, because it's Motorhead. It's like they're their
To
own.
me, what's weird, like it's actually rock and roll to me.
It's rock and
It's
roll.
definitely-
It's got
heavy,
It's all rock and roll.
it's got punk rock built into it.
Definitely.
It's got
They're like their own.
it's
Somebody
it's
built that.
it's punk rock. It's classic rock. It's progressive. It's
grunge before grunge.
It's metal. It's
Yeah.
grunge before
Little bit.
grunge.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the whole thing with he had this problem singing.
right.
And when you see him doing this thing with the
The mic
microphone
up
like
here.
this,
If you
I-
squeeze my lizard, I'll
I
put my snake in you.
I remember
You're
when
almost there, dude.
I remember
That's
getting
nice.
really sick at a gig one time, and my lungs
Killed by
and
death. I
my
don't know why
throat
that's
were
the one
so
that came.
congested with phlegm from being sick, but I had to perform.
Yeah.
That I put the microphone up like this so that it would clear my throat, so I could actually sing.
Right.
So when I saw him doing that, I was like, I
Oh.
wonder if he's got a cold, because that's what I used to do when I got sick and I had or a flu.
I always sounded like he had a cold.
Had a
And
big
he's-
impact on
The
me.
first
that
time
whole,
I
like,
saw them was
that-
on.
Oh, yeah, the visuals.
The visual was like,
Yes,
this
yes.
guy's fucking amazing.
The first
when
time
you're
I
like
saw him was
13.
on the
It's
Young
hardcore.
Ones.
You know,
Did
it's
you
like
ever see it?
hardcore. It's like
Yeah.
hard. It's like
Do you guys know that
Hardcore.
show, The Young Ones?
yeah.
I don't.
Oh
And-
yeah.
And Motorhead was on The Young Ones.
Yeah.
I'm like, who
What's The
the
Young Ones?
fuck? It's
Oh
this
my God, you
guy
gotta
who,
look that up.
you know,
Yeah.
and they did Ace of Spades and
Yeah.
just murdered it.
Mm.
It's
That was
incredible.
my memory is Ace of Spades, the video with Fast Eddie Clark, and like on the, like on Much Music in Canada when I'm like 12 or whatever.
I saw them
Oh my
open
God,
for someone.
that's
I don't
amazing.
remember who.
Oh, you
I
did?
saw them like when I was young, opening for. I have a weird visuals of all the concerts I saw when I was young. You know, I remember seeing these bands,
Yeah.
but sometimes I don't remember who was the headliner
Mhm.
and who was the opener, because I
Okay.
saw a lot of music from say 81 through 86.
Yeah, me too.
Is that when you
Every
started going to
single
shows? Was
yeah,
it 81?
81
Oh,
first
me
one,
too.
the Who, and
Whoa!
yeah, the Eminence Front Tour.
Wow.
That's awesome.
that
And
doesn't suck.
and
No.
it's kind of funny. It was Eminence Front Tour. So that was at the Pontiac Silverdome with the Clash and Eddie Money.
Well, that's a weird mix.
Weird mix.
Shaking.
But the funny thing is, so I have Steve Ferris on Tone Talk,
Mhm.
and we're talking about this, and he was
Steve
talking about
Ferris?
when he played with Eddie Money.
Oh.
Steve Ferris played
yeah.
with Eddie Money, and he talked about the Pontiac Silverdome show, and I'm like, I was fucking there.
That's amazing, man.
That's awesome.
That is amazing.
But And I know I saw Motorhead at some point in time opening for someone. And I don't remember when back then. But then I got to see him from side stage at Summer Sonic Festival in Japan. When I was doing some tech work for the Offspring.
Yeah.
I
Hotter,
remember
headlining that
hotter
show.
than balls. But and I'll never forget the visual of him walking down the hallway in these jean shorts.
Lemmy?
These jean shorts were way too small.
Yeah.
And the visual you got there was just way too much. You're like, and then behind his stacks on stage, I watched side stage the whole time because it was like there was one band in between them and Offspring. So I was like really close.
Right.
So I watched side stage the whole time. They were fucking great.
It's still strange bedfellows.
Behind the stacks, there's a little like TV dinner table, like little fold out little tiny square table.
Okay. What did that have?
Bottle of Jack Daniels,
Uh-huh.
a little glass.
Yeah.
And cigarettes.
Right.
It's all right there. And he'd go back there.
His
and
little
just-
kid. I remember him across the street from your shop, man. I mean, they used to rehearse and mix sometimes. So
Wow, really?
I remember. I totally was like walking through the parking lot one time. Oh, there's Lemmy. He's got a Motorhead, like the jean jacket on with the Motorhead on.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the only
Can't
guy that can
miss
pull that.
me.
Only guy that can pull that off.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Oh, but he used to be, of course, when I first got to LA. I mean, I should say, was 90, and the only place I could go drink was because I was 19.
Rainbow?
Was the Rainbow,
Right.
And he lived at the Rainbow. I mean, it was like there was never a night.
Oh yeah, that's
where-
why there's still a statue there.
Yeah, I mean, he was sitting in there playing Pac-Man
Hey,
every time.
Phil
I go.
Campbell's story.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just Phil
Campbell's story. Same album project.
Hmm.
They're taking a break. I go out in the lounge. Phil is in the corner by himself with an Ovation acoustic guitar
Right.
playing in the beginning
Okay.
beautifully,
Yeah.
perfectly.
Really.
He's playing the whole song from top to bottom
Huh.
perfectly. This is the guy who just a few minutes before was in the control room having this really intense encounter with the engineer because the engineer didn't want to give Phil a line of crank before the take. It had to be after the take. And then after he did the take, Phil goes, "Come on, it was good." And the engineer goes, "All right," and pours out a line.
Grohl, speaking of Dave Grohl, that moment when he was speaking at Lemmy's funeral, the dude grabbed Lemmy's bass and hit the low E. And the sound coming from the stacks behind made him jump.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I didn't. Yeah.
So
So I'm like trying to focus on reading that too.
So he's out there doing. He's playing this amazing shit. I'm going, this guy's a serious motherfucking guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems like this guy that you drag out of the gutter into a studio and play a G chord and we'll be done. and he just like comes out with this. He's actually a master level guitar player that everything else about him is wrecked, right?
Right.
And then a girl comes from the front office and she goes, "Phil, there's a call for you." And he goes, "Who is it?" And she goes, "Some girl." And then Lemmy's in the studio and he goes, "Oh yeah, Phil's the chick magnet." And Phil goes, "Fuck a lot of them." And he goes right back to playing the guitar. He doesn't want to hear from anybody interrupting his space at that moment. And I thought, this guy's a brilliant fucking musician disguised as a complete wreck.
Wow.
A complete fucking train wreck.
That's probably a lot of right?
A lot of musicians.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that it's
But
kind of interesting.
in there,
Yeah.
and I saw Leslie West do this.
Hmm.
I met him because he was working with Charlie Stringer, and he was representing their pedals and their strings and stuff. And Charlie came to me and said that Marshall had dropped the ball and didn't provide amplifiers for him for his show at the blues, in Hollywood, the blues
House of Blues.
House of Blues.
House of Blues.
Formerly in Hollywood.
Yeah, and would I provide amps for him for Leslie for the show? And I said, I'll provide the amps. I'll carry them down on my back personally.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding
The answer
me?
is yes.
Right. I called Erico, get your Les Paul Jr. and your Mountain album, and get your ass down here immediately. She came down to the nest. She wasn't going to go. She came down in a mini dress, and he signs her record, signs her Les Paul Jr., which I have, and we take a picture. And while we're taking a picture, Leslie's hand is heading towards the back of her dress, her skirt.
Uh-oh.
And like the picture's done, and she moves just in time.
Oh, good. God, I was worried there for a minute.
You're just
Gonna get off
suspense.
And
Palpable.
And I got the picture someplace. But anyway, we went down afterwards to the House of Blues and watched them play. And we had a balcony. We had a balcony seat right on the front edge of the balcony, and she cried off all of her mascara. It was like Beatlemania. She had seen a rock star. I came from Japan. I never thought in all my life coming to America and being part of this weird little company with this freak amp designer that I would be here watching Leslie West destroy the fucking place. And he did.
Yeah.
He totally destroyed the place. When I talked to him, he was a knucklehead.
Right.
And he goes, I don't need that overdrive. We brought him all this stuff, and he just set it all up on the clean channel with a distortion pedal, and he was all done. But it was all, at the time, VHT gear, all up on the stage. And we were just like going, this is a fucking moment we'll never forget. And then he just slayed the entire set. And she was just like going, this is like, I never dreamed that such a thing could happen in my lifetime. And
That's
she was
awesome.
like, literally at the end of the set, there's all this black stuff running down her face. And she was like, are you okay? Yes, I am okay. I'm totally okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And he killed it. He
I mean-
fucking killed it.
Yeah.
He sang the shit out of it.
That's just-
He
this is
played the
comedy
shit
right
out
there.
of it. He killed it. And I
Yeah.
just thought I myself never imagined that out of this broken down curmudgeonly perv guy going after my wife's ass that I would just think he had gone
Not
from
for you.
he had gone from this sort of has-been kind of guy to this is who I understood him to be in my early life.
Wow.
And there he
Yeah.
was.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Kids,
That
never
kind
met
of-
your idols.
But I've had
Oh,
many
yeah,
experiences like that. But
it can go south.
It can go south.
sure
but
you've
some of
had
them are
both.
great.
I've
Sure,
had
you had
both. But watching that happen and having her be able to experience that was just to me like, oh, that was worth it.
Yeah.
That was totally worth it.
Erico, you want to come in and share your lived experience? No. Okay.
Absolutely.
Has this
not.
got the autograph on it? Oh,
On the
inside?
front.
On the oh yeah, okay. I wish I had the picture of him going.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we need that picture.
We
That's
don't need
cool.
to see that.
You guys, I
Do
got
you
a
need
jet
to
pretty soon.
split?
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
pretty
wondered
soon.
what
But
your
but
alarm
but
was.
but don't take that as a stop or anything. That doesn't mean I've just got to get dinner. But I've got a.
What do you want dinner for?
Well,
Yeah, what do you
it was
want
a-
dinner for?
It was a
Survival or
plan.
something?
It was a plan that I was stick to. But
I haven't gone 2 over.
Huh? No, I'll go another 5 or something. But yeah, I think that the best show I ever saw there by far was Jeff Beck, and it was a whole room of guitar players. My memory of House of Blues was Brian Ray, Lyle Workman, We're all standing in like on a row, and it's just all these guitar players standing around. Maybe Jason Norman was there that night. I think we're all standing there watching him, and I just remember he was playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I looked at Lyle and I go, he's the best guitar player on earth. Like, is that? And Lyle's like, absolutely. There's absolutely no. There's like no. There's all these guitar players. It was like religious. It's a shame the House of Blues isn't there anymore because I saw it. It was really great.
So I was recently the one at Vegas. So I was working for Mike Landau, and I think it might have either the Raging Hockeys
still fucking
or it was
Mike Landau
Burning Water
Mike Landau
or something.
The best guitar player.
And they played at the House of Blues.
Yeah.
Right. But there was a surprise guest after.
Okay.
This we had no idea.
It was Raging Hockeys gig.
No, it might have been Burning Water. I don't remember which band it was because I worked for both during the time.
Okay.
Cool.
But surprise guest.
Yeah.
Surprise show.
Yeah.
Prince.
Whoa!
So I got to watch Prince at the House of Blues.
So he had probably just played the Staples Center or something, and then come over for
No,
a second.
he had all his gear. I don't know. It was all like, wow.
But you know how they do a gig after a gig?
Maybe, yeah. But he had all his
Yeah, he had his sit-in gear.
Yeah,
Like
sit
his
in
whole
gear.
band gets loaded in
And-
with the auxiliary.
Yeah.
and it
tour.
was so great.
Probably just unbelievable.
It was so great.
Yeah, one of the best shows I've ever seen.
And I'm
I've
like,
seen him once.
oh my God. And it was, we didn't even know we were going to see this. You know, it was just like,
That's so cool.
we're going to stay to the end.
Yeah.
But
That's incredible.
and he is a guy that actually is an underrated guitar player, but it wasn't just about his guitar playing. He took that and the other stuff, which was channeling James Brown and channeling Little
Showmanship.
Richard and doing all this other stuff that he did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, he slayed on guitar.
There's probably
as
no
an-
more complete musician. He can
Yeah.
play anything.
Yeah.
He can play drums, he can play bass, he can play guitar, he can play keys, he can sing, he can
And,
write.
and,
he can
and
do it
here's
all
an
kind of
interesting
equally.
thing about all of it is he actually had a unique sound on each instrument.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if you listen
totally.
to his drumming, I always know when it's Prince.
That's
Mhm.
interesting.
His fingerprint is on his bass playing,
Yeah,
the
his
same
bass
as it
playing
is
is
his
incredible.
vocals. Like, oh yeah, Prince played bass on that track. Okay, he
Which
didn't-
goes
Yeah.
all the way back to
Unbelievable,
the
man.
original concept I had for this show, which is that manufacturers pitch. If you use this gear, if you use this gear, if you use this gear, you'll sound like this.
And your
and-
thesis is
We'll get around to the topic right at the
screwed.
end.
That's
Yeah.
what we do here.
I know. I always fast forward the shows.
That's right.
But it's necessary to work your way all through that so that the end point makes sense, which is that are you a musician? Are you a creative person? Are you an artist? Are you thinking about yourself in those terms when you're playing music? Or are you just trying to ape your hero?
are you just a
Right.
guitar operator?
Yeah.
Or are you just a guitar operator? And we have this thing, you're a musician or a guitar operator or a drum operator. You're operating the mechanical thing,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I always go back to that. And whenever I look at current marketing, the three aspects of current marketing. If you buy this gear, you'll sound like your hero. If you buy this gear, you won't need all of the old gear that is now obsolete, that actually we're making sort of second or third generation copies of the stuff that you really should be paying attention to create something that you can't really create unless you have that acoustic, that psychoacoustic interaction with playing with that stuff, which you don't get playing with modeling gear. You understand that. You are able to do that in a live performance because you already know, you've already created the experience that you're playing and have programmed it into your system, and you're basically replaying that live.
Mm.
But you didn't do that. You didn't create that with that equipment. You created it with real gear, and then you went, okay, now I need to go out and reproduce that live in the public arena.
That's kind of true.
Right.
Yeah. I'd say
So
that's
there's
pretty
that.
accurate. Yeah.
And then there's, do I believe the 97 clickbait YouTube videos out there every week that says tube amps are dead, tube gear is dead, real guitars and amplifiers, and no, you just model everything and you click a keyboard and you can write music. You can do that if you're that skilled and creative and groundbreaking as an artist, which is 97% of the people aren't. Sorry to say, don't mean to.
There's no shade in that. No, not
No, I don't think
everybody
so.
has to be an innovator, or like we say
But
guitar
you don't
operators.
need-
There's nothing wrong.
You
with
know,
that.
you talk about all the marketing for all this stuff. I mean, in reality, like if you're that much of an artist, you make music with whatever you have.
Dude, some of my favorite things are when somebody hands me a guitar and I like, do you want to get up and play? Like, what are we gonna do? Does everybody know the same? Oh, we can do it. Man, I can do that song. What? I don't have a pick.
Yeah.
And somebody hands you a guitar and they hand
Yeah.
you a pick, and you're like, what's the? Okay, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And you're like, and whatever it is, it is.
Yeah.
It's a Parker guitar and a KMH
Like,
amp.
okay,
or
good.
anything.
I can hear myself.
You know, anything. That's
and you're on your own, pal.
make it work. Make it work.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah, when I started doing sessions for Linda Perry, it was funny because when I started working for her, I'd go in and I was always used to bringing my own stuff. I had a lot of good gear at the time, and I'd bring guitars and stuff. And then I realized she has like 80 guitars at the studio, and she's got like 40 amps, you know, and she's got like
Great
a
amps.
drawer, yeah, like all kinds, like, you know, copper
Good
top
stuff.
AC30s and, you know, all manner of Blackface Fenders and Marshalls and everything under the sun.
And what does it
What
all
am I
mean,
bringing?
really?
And her thing would be like, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna use this amp and this guitar. And sometimes you do something, she'd be like, that's not working. Like, you need to change your. She was very blunt. She'd be like, you know, that's not working. Change
That's
your
great.
thing.
Things
Yeah.
move along fast that way.
And sometimes
Right.
she'd pick.
Well-
because she liked to pick. She'd go play the 12
Joe.
string Fender through the play the 12 string Fender, you know, mid 60s 12 string Fender through the AC15 and pick one pedal and just come up with a part.
Yeah.
And it was like a little challenge. It was
Joe,
so fun.
Wayfarer 320.
You didn't do this one yet.
I'll do that. Just highlight Wayfarer 320.
Again, now.
So I'm sorry, you were saying.
I was just saying that as a producer, she liked to sometimes. It was like a little game. She'd be like, "Why don't you play the telly through the AC15 and pick one pedal and come up with it? That's it, one pedal. That's all you get."
Mm.
And I'd be like, "Okay." I'd be like, "What's it? Okay, Univibe through there or something through the," and then you come up and you just make a part.
She wouldn't tell you what pedal. She's like,
No, she'd be like, "You
your-"
pick one."
She's
note.
making a part.
one.
He's
note.
making a part.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says things like that sometimes. I mean, and if that didn't work, then she'd be like, "Oh, I don't." And sometimes it'd be like, "You know what? I want to play acoustic on this," and okay, and we just switch it up. But it'd be like I wouldn't bring
Then you
my
play
stuff.
the acoustic guitar through the Univibe, through the
It
box.
could-
You
Could be whatever
You know,
works.
anything works. That's the other thing. That's the other thing. You know, anything can work.
That's the trick.
So I've
Find the
learned.
music, find
Not
the
only
music.
can anything
Big
work, but
building
when
rigs.
something doesn't work right, that's a thing too.
But
Okay.
all three
Right.
of you
Yeah.
guys are involved in marketing in one way or another, right?
Unfortunately,
You
yeah.
have
Pretty hardcore,
wares
yeah.
that you're selling, and then
But-
you're a guy who a lot of it like is introducing.
He's
people
in
to
marketing
products.
for sure.
I'm
Absolutely.
definitely. Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you like? What I'd love to hear from all three of you, like you about. To say you need this one special box.
Well, we don't say that though.
Mm-hmm.
We don't exactly say
I
that.
never say that.
And do you feel like that's really important in your messaging?
Repeat
like,
a little
never-
bit of that because our sound cut out when you were saying that, making that point.
Uh,
But you're basically saying,
You're saying,
how do you guys?
How do you balance?
Right.
how do you get
You
around
need
the
this
fact
thing.
that you know that it's bullshit to claim that like
never
one
bullshit.
there's a magic box for anything?
That's
right?
why it's never
That was-
bullshit.
it's never bullshit. It's
That's how you do it. It's never good. It's like you get into it
It's
and
your
you get
first
excited about it
impression.
like you're 14 and you're like, here's what this thing does really well.
Mhm.
Oh, and then my thing is hit record and start recording a track right away and going, oh, that sounds cool. Okay, that sounds cool. Okay, that sounds cool. Oh, there's a song. And then I go, hey, here's this thing. I wrote this track with it. This is what I came up with.
Mhm.
This is what I hear it do.
I don't think I approach it where I don't really say. I'm not in that many videos. We're not making that many videos of our own making. We use a lot of influencers, you know,
got it.
like Pete or Michael Nielsen or a bunch of different people to make videos, but we don't ever tell them what to do.
Mhm.
So it's interesting you might hire someone to demo your product that, you know, I want the vibe of Sean Tubbs on this product because I think he could do a cool thing, or an alternate to what you're going to do or to what someone else is going to do. And it's a little more, it's not like these schlocky things like you got to buy this because it whatever. You know,
Well,
you-
that
so,
doesn't
you know,
come from top down from him.
that doesn't come from me
Because
directly.
I
you
see
know?
him the way he designs things, you
Right.
know, and the way you design things and work, or the way you do a mod or whatever. He's very passionate about it, you know. So it's like he's sitting there playing it. He's like, "It's not there yet." It's not. I hear him say it all the time. He's like, "It's," and I'll go. I'll be walking through the shop or whatever. I'll go, "That thing sounds really good." And he'll go, it's almost there. I gotta. And then the next morning he's in there playing it again.
Yeah.
And he's working it again.
And that thing
And
will be elusive. Not only that, but it will shift from day to day.
And it's
For
hard.
sure.
It's hard, and it's hard to describe what I'm listening for. I can't even. It's a feel.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
You-
a
it's
note.
not
It's
anchored
a
in
thing,
anything.
and it can change from day to day. You're right.
Right.
Your ears change. Some days nothing sounds good
Right.
at all, ever.
Sure.
You're just like. Ugh.
And the trick is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the trick is, and I've said this a bunch of times, we QC 100 different amps, and then that one fucking sucks. That's not leaving the factory
Right.
until we
Yeah.
figure out what's going on with it. And then 2 weeks later, all right, we got all the big shipments out of the way. We're all done. Let's go back to that piece of shit. What was going on with
Figure
that?
it
We
out.
played it, and
Yeah.
it was like
Like,
the
sounds
best,
great.
best one of all of them.
interesting.
But all
But
the
they-
best designers, they don't
and-
let
and
it
they
go
laugh at you. So-
until it.
So
I'm like,
So,
yeah, I don't.
amplifiers and designs and mods and things that you think work, they laugh at you. They laugh at you for trying to nail them down. So I was working on a Sound City combo.
Mhm.
I thought, I'm going to make it better. And then the same day, Jamie
Mhm.
calls up, says, I need to go pick up something.
Jimmy Kine.
Jamie Kime comes over. I need to pick up something. I go, okay. So he comes over and I hand him a Strat and I say, play through this. And he plays and I give him option A and option B. And he goes, they're both fine. What am I listening for? And I'm like, fuck it. Right.
He's so good that it's like
Yeah.
he
And
gets a
then,
tone out of anything.
and then the next time, recently, I did it again. I decided that this amp, little Sound City 20-watt combo,
Mhm.
I decided originally I wanted to have this certain kind of edgy grind thing at a low volume that would sound like loud but quiet and blah, 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 blah. And then I went, you know what? Fuck that. It just needs to be this big, wide open soundscape where you hit a chord and you go whang. And I did that and I went, it does that. Yeah, that's where it needs to go.
Mm.
Somebody comes over and I go, Joe Marisi comes over. And I hand him a guitar and I play an E chord. And he plays it. And he lost his fucking mind.
Mm.
Lost his mind. He texting me 3 or 4 days in a row. Dude, I've been telling people about that little 20-watt amp I played through. I got guys lined up wanting to come over and check it out. And then somebody who is familiar with that amp came over and played through it. And I showed a new version. They were like, yeah, what'd you do different? Like,
Right over the head.
But it
Yeah.
sounds like what you're saying is that you work a design until you are pleased with it in your hands.
You know what?
And then-
Generally, I almost have
makes
no
the
one
hair on
else
your
ever
arms
listen
stand up.
to things
the
to
only
give me an
thing.
opinion
Uh-huh.
because I that drives me insane.
But then when
Because
you're done,
everyone, I mean, once too many people start giving opinions on stuff, oh,
Right.
but when you're done,
you know, you like to see people in some respect go, "Oh, that sounds great." Like if
Uh-huh.
you walk by and goes, "Oh, it sounds fucking great."
You and I tend to like
Yeah,
the same
but-
similar things.
But
you know?
but like for me, I just have to tweak it till I'm happy with it.
Right.
I mean, like, and then if everyone else is happy with it, well, that's great.
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
and do you do
it seems
something
to
you go,
work.
This is fucking the God said. I've been gifted by God with this amazing thing and blah blah blah. And you show it to your people and go, well, yeah, what am I listening for?
but then when
I
it's
don't think he
time,
li-
when it's
No,
time
I
to
don't
do the
show it to
marketing
anyone.
for a product,
Here's the product. Let's
Oh,
make
when
it.
it's time to do marketing for a product, then what you do is you're putting it in the hands, like you're casting people in a sense. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
think I think there's a shade of this amplifier that would sound this particular way
In
in that
his
guy's
hands.
hands and that one. And
Well,
just
all these
do
guys
it
do
and
their
let it
thing.
speak for itself.
You know what I found is that you know what I think everyone else does a better video than you. You know what I mean? Like it's like you try to do your official video and something maybe slightly goes awry or something said and people don't like it, and then it's just like I'd rather have a bunch of people do the video and not, you know, it's the thing about videos is it's interesting. A great video guy does not make a great audio guy.
Right.
So you better make sure the audio is captured by a really great audio guy or yourself or something to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
But then those people are still editing it, can still fuck it up for you.
Yeah.
So there's like, I mean, like in a perfect world, you want a great video guy that is an audio engineer also, you know, that can really edit and do.
Who's the guy, the British guy with the afro?
Rabea.
I ran into him at NAMM, and I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, I'm Steve Fry," and he goes, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "I really fucked up the demo for the Deliverance module. Everybody says I did a shitty job of it." And I'm going, "Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, let me tell you something. I really appreciate what you did, because what you did was something that I never would have thought of, which is take it into a completely different realm and do something else that I hadn't envisioned. And that is the best thing that anybody could have done for a video. And thank you for that." And he was just like, "Really? Because I just get all this shit for not making it sound like," dude, that's what all of our shit is about. And he's like,
interesting.
And he was so, it was like almost like I'd lifted this guilt off of his back.
That's
he was
cool.
relieved.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I even had commented on his video at the time in the comment section. That was so cool that you did that, because what you did is you slapped a bunch of people in the face and said, you don't really have to just. This one thing about Fryette is that I don't want people to do is get caught up in the fucking dogma. That's like the thing that we fight against more than anything else. I didn't care about PCB versus hand wired versus which EL34 6. What it's about. Fuck the dogma. Are you a player? Do you plug a guitar into amp and just like go, I'm going to play a song today. I'm going to inspire myself today. I'm going to play music today. I'm going to create something today. Or do you get hung up? I got to sound just like the video that I heard. That's just like,
right.
That's
not where it's at.
That's not where it's at.
You got to plug it in and get inspired and make something that sounds, you know, like you should forget that you're watching a gear video or whatever for the first 3 minutes at least.
That gear never sounds like it does in their videos.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, it's just some.
It just he recorded it. He recorded it through a Marshall cabinet.
Excuse me, that's a good thing. That's what we aspire to.
Yeah.
Remember, no two people's hands sound alike.
That's true.
At all.
Oh, and there's
remember when we sat in here with that same guitar?
Yeah,
we three sat in here and we're just banging on chords. I think on your version of his Esquire. We're like, listen to that. Yeah. Like our hands, and we had people in the peanut gallery here going, I forget how it turned out, but like so and so's hands are a lot darker. So and so has a bit more power.
Yeah, there was this whole big thing recently on the Gear page about. Hey, fuck all this. The tone is in the fingers. Fuck you. The tone is in the fucking fingers.
It is. It's just like when you always said, it's like you always like me to try something because I'll play a certain kinds of chords and I'll smack it. I remember like Amp Show and you had your Sound City showing.
Yeah.
I just like came in and I go, wait a minute. Just take the attenuator off.
I will
turn it up all the way.
I will take a thing that I'm convinced is like wonderful and inspiring to me. And I'll take it over there because I'm going to hear, I don't know what I'm going to hear. It could be, or it could be cool, or it could be, I like this. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'll take it over there. And he'll play an E chord because he has this thing. He plays an E chord. That's his reference E chord. He goes, Runk. He's got a certain kind of hands. He's got a certain kind of a pick attack. And he'll go, one chord, one E chord from Dave will tell me,
you hear it too.
I hear it immediately and I go, I like that or I don't like that. And he'll go, I like that or I don't like that. The first time he played through the ether, he looked at me, he goes like this. And I went, oh fuck, here it comes.
No.
I went, here it comes. He's going to tell me like, what the fuck do you think you were doing? What came out of his mouth was, do not change a motherfucking thing on this fucking amplifier ever. And I went,
Amazing sounding.
woo!
Which one was it?
I was blown
Ether?
away. I was blown away.
Have you ever heard one?
Uh-uh.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
you have to hear one.
Oh, dude,
I can't even
can loan you
explain
one.
it.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
It has this beautiful like
I can't explain it. This
compression
is the thing that
and
exists.
foxiness and sparkly.
Oh,
It
cool.
just has this
That's
Now,
cool.
see, I understood that reaction. Other
Words
players
don't do it.
come in there and
justice.
they
You gotta play it.
and
Okay.
played through it, and they go, it's kind of a Vox meets a Brown Fender meets a
It's
blah blah
just
blah. You
shut
don't know
up.
what the fuck you're
No,
talking about.
It's be quiet.
Just shut up.
Just play.
Just play.
Yeah,
no, it just has that. It just has that
And if you
that
gotta
beautiful
bail
compression
anytime.
and the
Oh,
We'll wrap
reverb.
it up too. We'll-
I don't
And the
even.
reverb was
I
amazing.
honestly
It just
don't-
had like this.
I
had
honestly
reverb, right?
don't-
Yeah, so I'm not remembering that wrong, right?
I don't pretend to know what it is that makes people think anything that they think about it. But one of our assembly guys is a guitar player, and I said, I want you to just listen to the tremolo and tell me what you think about it.
Oh,
So
good
he
track.
played.
Mm.
He picked up
Mm.
my Strat, my
Mhm.
custom shop Strat, and he turns on the tremolo and stuff. I said, just play for a few minutes, and then I left the room, and then I came back and I said, so what do you think? And he goes, oh, I really like the tremolo. And he looks at his watch and he realized that he'd been playing for almost an hour.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
And then
it's kind of
right
hypnotic.
after about the time that amp came out, there was an amp show, and one of the guys from Guitar Player came over. I've just got a couple of minutes, and then I've got a meeting.
Yeah.
So I hand him a guitar, plug him into the ether, and turn the tremolo on, and he starts playing through it, and then
The drool comes.
I went
That's
I
that
went
kinda
in the
amp. The
back.
drool
I
starts
went in
coming
the
out the
production
run.
department and I was talking to somebody about something, and I came back and it was like an hour and a half later, and I said, so what do you think? And he goes, man, I really like the tremolo. He looks at his watch and it was an hour. He's like, I totally fucking blew that guitar for me. And that's when I knew that people got transported away from reality for a minute to
That's
where
cool.
they just enjoyed playing music and exploring. And I thought that's what Dave encapsulated that in 5 minutes, but it took
Yeah.
other guys. They were like, wait a minute, did time just get bent for a minute? I'm not talking about how great the ether is or isn't. What I'm talking about is when you experience a gear, a guitar and an amplifier and yourself in the right frame of mind, where you get transported away from all the stupidity around your life, and you can create music or even just create something that
Sure.
It's got a vibe.
that makes you feel like a musician rather than just a guy buying and selling
An
gear.
operator.
An operator.
Not an operator.
Yeah, the first time I plugged into
Okay.
there's a few amps and guitars and things where that's happened. I mean, one of them was my 335 that I've got an old 335,
one.
and we were sitting around in a store. It's not there anymore, but it was, remember Lloyd from Voltage? It was one of his shops, so it was called Vintage Gear. Remember Voltage Guitar?
Yeah.
So it was Vintage Gear. It was the store that sold sort of funkier stuff.
The guy that
was
had
on
a
the
goat.
corner of.
Called him Goat Boy because he had a goat.
I didn't know.
He had a goat in the store.
Did he?
Yeah,
I
he
don't
had a baby
remember.
goat in
I
the
don't
store.
remember that.
Yeah, he lived up in.
fuzz in your 335.
No.
He lived up in the at the time he lived up in the foothills of Glendale, and
Okay.
he brought it, and there was a goat in his property. He brought it into the shop, so there was a goat. So we called him Goat Boy.
Good old Lloyd. But
Okay,
he,
little side.
So, what was my story about my 335? Oh, I just remember we sitting around in the shop one day in Vintage Gear, which was his second store. They started with John Nelson. John Nelson also played with Eddie Money, by the way. He was his MD guitar player for a while. But anyways, they had this shop. And Dave Kalish was sitting there playing guitar one day. It was a 65 Strat. He's sitting there playing a nice amp, whatever he's plugged into. It sounded really good. And there's like 3 or 4 of us sitting around. Dave's a great guitar player. It's like, it's cool. This 335 had just come in the shop. It's a 63 block logo or block
Inlay,
inlay, excuse me, block inlay. And he takes the guitar and he plugs it in, and he hits one note and he goes like, oh, and then we all forgot about the Strat. I remember him saying that, and it just sung, and it was like, and that was one of those things where it's like, oh my God, that guitar. And I bought that guitar. That's my 335. I just still have. It was one of those, or the first time I played a Comet was like that too. That amplifier hit one note and it turned into three. Like in the, I've never played one of these. I got to try it. Turned it up and it just went. And I was like, oh my God, okay, the Trainwreck thing. And Hoagie makes great amps. I think he does a great version of that thing. So, but those types of experiences where you, and then you're like, it takes you away, like where you're not even ready for it. And then you're like, yeah, you find yourself playing like, I have to have this because this is like something that
because I can do something with this.
Speak with this. And that's the.
And then there was that train wreck you did the video of.
Oh, that thing was
the real train wreck.
It was a Liverpool that came in. The guy from fellow from Shake Shack. He works for Shake Shack. He's like a high level guy. He owns a train wreck. He's a guitar player.
Wow.
That was just
the glass
so alive. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it sings and feedback.
It would just break into feedback and effort.
Every
single little note.
Guys, what the hell's going on in an amp like that then?
That's my new kick. It's just like that's all in the power amps.
It's how he was really good at that. All the ones I've heard of those have been like that. It's just so alive and like in the power amp, right? Pushing the amp. You got to push the amp.
There's a buttload of high end.
It's bright,
but
it was really
it's
bright.
not bad. It's beautiful.
It was a smooth high.
And the high end makes sense when you push
but it's
the
a
amp,
20
right?
watt amp,
Oh,
so
it
you
just
can
sounds-
experience that on average without fear. Bigger amps do that. A lot of bigger amps do that, but there's the fear threshold where you just like go, I can't. I see it all the time. I'm a professional. My ears can't take that, or I don't want to disrupt my high end, or I don't want to lose my hearing, or that's too loud for me, or whatever. There's that fight response thing.
There's no free lunch, folks.
There's no free lunch. The Sound City thing can do that, but you have to like just set aside.
Stand off the side of the cabinet.
Right.
You have to get off axis, and you have to go. I have to. It's like, what do you do when you go on one of those rides where they drop you straight down? Do you go, well, no, I don't. I want the experience, but I don't want the G-forces. Can you do that without the G-force? No, right. You have to take the G-forces.
Yeah.
And, but I'm a woman, and I'm wearing a halter top. What if my halter top flies up? Well, then don't get on the ride.
It's all good.
Then we're all happy.
So what is this Liverpool like before you start pushing the power section?
It's beautiful, bright? Clean.
Oh, it is.
No, it sounds like a great. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a unique amp because if I had to describe it, I'd describe it as boxy because that's the only amp that I've played that has that like a copper top, copper panel AC. It is 84s, but Dave describing the circuit to me says it's a little more actually Fender front end.
It's actually more of a Fender front end with a gain stage after.
Well, an AC30
if they limit the bass out a lot after the Fender front end, and then they go into the extra gain stage and into the power sections, though, is a little more.
The non-top boost AC30 is pretty Fendery until it gets to the EL34 part. Of course, and then there's the channel that's got the EF86 in it, and then that's got more gain and blah 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 blah. But it's really founded on a Fender. But we did this and this, just like the Marshall is founded on a Bassman, but we used. We had these post-war surplus EL34 output transformers. Okay, let's get some EL34s. We'll just graph those onto a Bassman circuit, and Jimmy Page likes it. Oh, Pete Townsend likes it.
Well, that's also the thing too. Is like when the music was being invented, it's like everybody was in the state of grace. So
everything was being invented.
Here, go make some amazing music with it, and then it happened, and then the listeners are like, "Well, that's
you didn't have to tell them to make amazing music."
So I want that
because all they had to do was play through it and go, "I don't recognize this." See, that's the thing. If you don't, one of the most heartfelt compliments about the ether, and I don't mean to push the ether, it's just simply the reaction that Saul Cole heard it for the first time, and he goes, the thing about the amp that really I connected with was the way it looked and the way it sounded and the way it was set up and the colors and all that stuff like that. There wasn't anything there that I could I could preconceive what I was going to hear from what I saw.
Mm.
It was too different than everything else. It sort of looked like something. It sort of looked like, but my first impression looking at it was that I couldn't get an impression about what it was going to sound like by looking at it.
Okay.
And as a result, I didn't have a preconceived notion about what was going to come out of it. So when I did hear it, I was shocked by that because I didn't have a reference point to start with. So I had to develop a reference point after having experienced that, which is ideally what you want to have happen with a new piece of gear. You want people to go, I've heard something that made me think I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, rather than going, like when you play a telly or a Strat. When you play a telly, you go,
But you know what's funny?
You do chicken picking stuff, or you
Not
play
me.
like
You
or
do the
play like-
opposite. Because Dave's amp, like the styling is Marshall-esque. Because you're so bold, you're like, yeah, you like Marshall.
That's not how
style.
that came about, but
but you're doing all
I
the
would
stuff
think
that
No,
that
but
came
it looks
about-
to me like, go
I have
ahead
to use
and
the bathroom
why are you looking at me?
because you know where it is. Is
Oh.
it that way?
go turn left, and then when you go through the kitchen, immediately turn left.
Okay, I'm gonna do that, and then I have to cut out.
Okay, well, we'll come and say goodbye to you because we're going to close the show down. All right.
yeah, come on back, and then we'll finish up.
But what you've done with
All right, I have a comment I want to get in before we end the show.
what you've done with the Marshall concept is you've done all the things that everybody wished Marshalls would do with Marshalls, and they never did.
Yeah.
And I hate gold. If I had my way, they would have never been gold. And
But people
what
want that.
happened exactly, that was the problem. When I first started doing anything, people were like, "Ooh, can you make it with a gold panel? I want it with a gold panel." And then I was just like, okay, sure.
I got.
I mean, you don't want to not take the sales, you know what I mean?
No,
Sure.
So-
see, that was the difference between you and your other gold. Here's my. I gave.
No, I know, I gave
gave
in,
the
right?
idea of doing a gold panel a lot of thought, and my conclusion was,
Yeah, there we go.
But see, I feel like,
And ever since, I've been trying to steer away from the gold.
oh, interesting.
make a black one.
But to me, it
Well,
seems
we're-
like you're going.
We're making black panels with maybe gold writing. I can get away with
Well,
that.
fuck that.
but,
Fuck all of it.
but you're going. Go ahead and compare these to Marshalls.
But here's
Yeah.
yeah.
speaking of this is what I wanted to bring up with this.
Okay.
Preconceived notions. What you were talking about, preconceived notion.
Mm.
So when a YouTuber does an A/B video, you know, where they're A/Bing a Marshall and a Friedman and a blah 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 and a blah blah blah, and they're A/Bing them all and they're going back and forth between them all. The problem with all those videos is you see what each amp is as you're going between them. It's not a blind test.
Oh, that's funny because I'm doing a video
and
for you
people's
right now.
preconceived
It's blind.
people's preconceived notion, like if they love Marshall, they're going to go, yeah, the Marshall sounds the best.
Right.
Now, do the same test, and I've done it. I did a video a long time ago with this on just a two comparison, and and I just said one is one and one is another, and it was switching in real time as you're playing
Because you have to.
the same riff over and over again with
Because
an
you
amp
have-
switcher.
Did you tell people
Clicking.
at the end what was happening?
No, I never told anyone
Oh,
ever.
What a dick!
But it was so fun to hear their comments.
That's interesting.
And I don't think when you do a comparison of amps, you should tell them which is A and which is B. You should do a comparison just based
Which one's
on
better?
What one is you
What
can
do
you
you like?
can say which one is which. You decide
Yeah, you
and
have
read
to.
the comments.
That's
don't-
interesting.
I don't want you guys to quit because you're right.
Oh no, we need to.
We're
No,
gonna quit.
We need to.
Really?
But
Because I got 20
thanks-
minutes
thanks
to
for
get to the
coming
last
on.
call for food. So
We're
I'm
going.
gonna go. I'm going
No,
at this point.
I think we accomplished what we wanted to
Really?
accomplish, and we've had a good time slot, and everything is.
Okay, I don't want to rush you out of.
No,
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 not
no.
at all. No, actually, it's
Maybe I'm coming with you.
perfect.
Yeah. You wanna go? Okay. Yeah.
You can drop me off
Let's go get some food.
on the way that way.
Yeah, I'll bring you back to your place.
This way exceeded my expectations, and thank you guys for coming.
Yeah,
that was a blast.
Special
Anytime.
thank you.
We eventually
Okay.
talked about a few things.
No, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
surprisingly we covered every single topic that I wanted to cover, and and better than I had imagined it. And the other thing that we did was what we always do when we get together is just geek the fuck out, and that's really
Mhm.
She's right.
there's no better way to do it than that.
100%.
It also gives people an insight into, like, do we really agonize over a capacitor or a resistor or a chassis material? Or no, it's just like the playing experience. It's about music, and if it's not about music, what the fuck is it about, right?
Mhm.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
So
100%.
Is that it?
so
That's it.
So fuck everybody, and
Bye, folks. There, end with that. Fuck everybody.
And thank you all for hanging out. And
That's my pick.
And love you all, and see you.
We'll do this again.
We'll do it again sometime. And we'll let you know when.